Then thereafter, Reverend William H. Gray III, Congressman, the family together served over 80 years here at our church. They weekly would underscore the importance of how and why we should not only see ourselves and the world in which we live in the text, but all the while also encouraging us to look at how Scripture provides the scriptural panacea that addresses these social, spiritual realities. We come to this moment with a rich legacy of prophetic leadership that speaks to the spiritual, the social, and the structural woes that surrounds us. It is because of these concerns for these woes that I deemed it critical to converge on this sacred and hallowed grounds to address this sacred right and even right to vote. You know, the 15th Amendment was the key that unlocked our access to vote, but the Voters' Right Act of 1965, it in a real sense opened the door for colored people to vote, to fully engage in this civic responsibility. The challenge, however, is that our citizenry does not really value, according to data, this sacred right. Our last election cycle, there was a 47.4% voter turnout, which means that out of the 1,072,129 registered voters, 564,136 did not vote. In this ward alone, which is the 20th ward, last year we had a 35% voter turnout rate. Our goal today is to educate our community. Our goal today is to energize the community. Our goal today is to up the vote for this May election cycle. Why? Because in the 22nd district in which our church, our community resides, we have the highest fatal shootings and shooting victims. Why? Because we're living in a food desert. Why? Because in certain pockets of Philadelphia, like North Philadelphia, it suffers with environmental racism. Trash, debris, and lead paint consumes our school and our streets. Why? Because the life expectancy rate depends upon the zip code in which you live. And the list goes on and on and on. It was in undergrad that I was exposed to what I believe the greatest fraternity in the world, Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, and we learned and were informed that a voteless people is a hopeless people. Our voice matters. Our vote is our voice. And we must today turn out the vote. We must make sure that during this current election cycle that we vote in record numbers. Because we're faced with so many social, structural, and governmental issues. Your vote is needed to select proven and prepared leaders to transform our city. And if you have not registered, or someone you know that lives with you have not registered, Monday is the deadline. This is crucial. This is important. Today is going to be an informative and educational opportunity. We will hear from speakers. We will hear from candidates. They are present. They will share their platform and provide opportunities for question and answer. I am excited to, amidst the weather, I am excited that we have thought through this moment. I'm appreciative that those who are running for varying offices have stopped their schedules to sit in, discuss your platform, and hear and answer questions at your discretion. So I'm going to get out the way. We have allotted time and want to give time to those individuals who are present to share their platform, and I want to be sensitive to time, and because this brother was the first person present today, I think it's very important to give him space and opportunity to come forward now. Brother Jim Harity, is present. He's going to come forth. Brother Jim Harity is going to come forth. He's going to share his platform. Each candidate, you have at minimum 10 minutes to share, 5 to 7 minutes talking points. And if you feel comfortable, we'll ask individuals if they have any questions. We will entertain those questions for 3 minutes. At this time, Mr. Jim Harity. Harity, I do apologize. Thank you for being here.
It's everybody butchers Harity, so it's not bad. My actual nickname is Hags because my football coach couldn't say Harity. He would say, Haggity, get in there. So, again, my name is Jim Harity. I am a current sitting councilman at large. I got elected in November in the special election to fill the remainder of the Alan Dom seat when he got out to run for mayor. Most recently, my employment before this was as Senator Street's chief of staff. I was honored to have that position, and we were able to do a lot of good in the state of Pennsylvania, and especially for this district, bringing home money to the district. For me, I live in Kensington. I live at G in Allegheny in the middle of the Badlands. And I see every day the violence, the unruliness, the problems with the opioid epidemic that are plaguing our city. I talk to the kids in my neighborhood. I have 110 kids that live on my street. And they're good kids. They're not asking for anything extra. And I tell everybody all the time, if we gave them the same opportunities that the kids in the counties are getting, they would surprise you. You know, it's just ridiculous that we're paying around $9,000 to $12,000 to educate our children. Meanwhile, Bucks, Montgomery, Chester, and Delco are paying $24,000 a student to educate our kids. You can't tell me that there's not a direct correlation to what's going on in our communities and our education system. That's the first line of defense. We need to build new schools. And I always like to ask, who likes 2-for-1 deals? Anybody here? Everybody likes 2-for-1 deals, right? Well, if we build new schools, we get a 2-for-1. Not only do we get to give the kids a safe, clean, non-toxic environment that they can actually learn in, that's more like an educational facility than a prison. And on top of it, we create family-sustaining jobs with the construction workers that will build those schools. We can bring those construction workers and give those jobs to people in the neighborhood, to give them a sense of pride, to give them a sense of belonging. And that's what it's got to be about. We'll never, ever get rid of the crime problem that we have in Philadelphia until we start treating the underlying issues. And those underlying issues are education and poverty. We need to pay our workers more. And you know, it really pains me that we are the poorest big city in the nation. We have all these major corporations here. They need to pay their fair share. They need to put up money towards our community. You know, there's a lot of big businesses that pay no taxes, but meanwhile, we're getting overburdened with taxes. You know, we're short 1 out of every 5 jobs in the city of Philadelphia. We have jobs. The problem is they used to be good jobs that you could raise a family on, but they haven't had a raise in years, at least not one that would bring them up to the level that they need. There's a new study that says if you're a single parent, 1 child, living in the city of Philadelphia, you have to make at least $37 an hour in order to be able to afford to live here. Well, we need to pay our workers more. And that also starts with us. The biggest offender of that is actually the city of Philadelphia. We have sanitation workers who we say have to live here, but we don't pay them a wage so they can live here. And it really drives me crazy when people, the first comment they say to me is, well, they get all this overtime. Well, overtime's not supposed to be mandatory so that you can raise your family. Overtime's supposed to be if you need a couple extra bucks and you feel like working it, then you work the overtime to get a couple extra bucks for what you want. It shouldn't be ingrained in what you have to do in order to survive. We need to pay our people more. And if you send me back, I've been there 4 months, I already did 3 bills. If you send me back, I'm going to continue to work with common sense and attack the issues that are plaguing our system. Blight and housing are another issue that we have to come up with. You know, we need more affordable housing. If we had some of these vacant lots on these blocks that are really bad filled in, the crime would drop because you have more people that care about that area and will report them. And we need to get better with that as a government. So I promise you, if you send me back there, I am going to fight for you every day. I'm going to fight for our children. I'm going to fight for our seniors, because what our seniors are dealing with right now is not right. They worked their whole lives. They should be able to enjoy their lives, not be prisoners in their own home. So if you like what I'm saying, please give me a chance, give me a vote. My button number is number 70. I would love to come back and serve you. I'm asking you for your vote. Thank you. Any questions? Anyone? Going once, going twice? All right. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. You gonna leave me at top? Thank you, Brother Jim. I want to say that we do have a listed schedule for those who have confirmed, and I want to give deference first to Jeff Brown, who's running for mayoral candidate. And then I'll add in filler after Brother Jeff Brown, Brother Hagans. So Brother Jeff Brown will come forth. Then Brother Jeff Brown will come forth. Then we will have from the judiciary. He would come thereafter, and then Brother Hagans. Then we'll go back to our listed schedule. At this time, Mr. Jeff Brown is coming forth.
Reverend Doctor, thank you. To the Bright Hope family, thanks for having me here today. My name's Jeff Brown. I'm running for mayor. You may know me from my grocery business, ShopRite. And you know, I think if you look at my 35 years in the grocery business, you'll see what I'm about and what matters to me. And I've tried to use the business as a platform to address what I see is broken in the city. And the good Dr. Reverend laid out some of the very things I'm most concerned about. I'm very concerned that people live in some neighborhoods that are a food desert, and they're robbed of 20 years of their life. And I didn't like that. And so I tried to use my business to add stores into neighborhoods that no one went to, no one wanted to go to. And I did it by listening. I had town hall meetings, I listened. People told me what they wanted. They told me how they wanted me to do business, and I did what was asked of me, every single thing on the list. I hired locally. We unionized ourselves to give people fair wages, benefits, retirement, daycare benefits. And what I constantly heard in the neighborhoods, a lot of people have trouble getting a good job because they've been incarcerated. And so we really embraced that if we're going to make this a just and prosperous city, people that made a mistake have to have another chance. And we started hiring formerly incarcerated folks, and we've hired thousands over the last 20 years, and we've had a great success. When a person has a good job, they can make a living, they feel part of something. 98% of our hires never go back to the criminal justice system. Some cases they work their way into management or start businesses or find themselves in management elsewhere. So what they really needed was a positive environment where we believed in them and let their skills shine through. That's what we were able to do. And I took that, we started a nonprofit to do it, Uplift Workforce, and we do it for other firms now, and we have an incredible amount of years of experience with a very high success rate. And when you think about, I tell you this story because when you think about what we're suffering in this city, we're the poorest big city in the country, and people find themselves in structural poverty and do not find a way out. And their kids end up staying in structural poverty. And it's grown to a point where it's very hard to live and manage in this environment because people are suffering and there's a sense of hopelessness that's set in, especially for the young people who lay witness to the problems we have. And you know, politics has been around a lot longer than I've been around. And I've heard a lot of speeches since I'm a young boy about what people are going to do. But I haven't seen a lot of action. And in what I do as a grocer, I try to listen and then action. Do things to make a difference. And I don't see the listening and I don't see the action, I just see talking. And so you may find I'm maybe not the most gifted talker in the world, but I'll tell you what, you explain to me what needs to be done, I know how to get it done. And I think we're at a point in time in our history, I don't want our lives to slip away and leave things like this. I want to address the problems I see, bring hope back to the city, help people out of poverty into the middle class. And I have 3-4 platform items that are my priorities. Number one, help people out of structural poverty. And to do that, we have to reform K through 12 education because the young people that want to go to college, there's not enough good, high quality slots. For the young people that want to use their hands and go into career and technical work, we've been diminishing that for decades, closing schools, shutting down programs, and we're not modern. We're not modern at all. And there's very good paying jobs. We don't help young people take those jobs. I want to train them for those jobs in the state-of-the-art facilities. And I want them to have summer internships so they could try that work on, make sure they like it. And if they like the work, I want to place them into work. And I'll measure the administration on how much money they're making. Because I want them to make enough money to help their whole families exit poverty. That's my idea of what a success would look like. If we missed them in K through 12, I want to help them in the workforce system, like I've been doing all over the state because I'm chairman of the state workforce system. And we have counties in this state, they got like 0.5% unemployment. The growth in wages have been tremendous. Companies are paying more and more because they can't get workers in those counties. We need that right here in Philadelphia. And you know, to live in a city, there's two things you need. One is we need a safe city. We do not have a safe city. There's too much violence here. I want to fix the violence. I have a very comprehensive plan. And everybody in the policing business likes my plan and they all have endorsed me everywhere. And I'm confident that I'm on the right track there. And you know, the blight is a real problem. Too many abandoned cars, they should all be picked up in the first 100 days. Too much trash and dumping. We need a reliable trash pickup that every neighborhood gets picked up. We reliably need to fix street lights when they're out, potholes when they're bad, and not surface repair. Has to go down to the underbase and fix it properly so it doesn't come back all the time. The basic things that a grocer can do. And a good speaker, they haven't shown me they can do these basic things. That's what I'm about. We do have a housing crisis. The housing crisis, the affordable housing crisis, kind of reminds me of food deserts. There's a financial gap between the rent people can afford to pay and the cost to build a house. I solved the problem for food deserts, and I'm confident I can solve the problem in affordable housing. It would be my plan over the 8 years that I would add 30,000 housing units that are affordable at different price points, and we just end this conversation. I also believe to make this city right, to deal with gentrification, we should have a cap on real estate taxes. The biggest problem with gentrification is in some neighborhoods, the value of people's houses is double or triple. I'm okay with them having more wealth, generational wealth, but I'm not okay using taxes as a way to force people out of their houses. And the only way to stop that is to put a constraint on the government, put a cap, like a 5% cap. So this way, if your house doubles in value, it takes 20 years for you to pay that full amount. And I would like to have an advocate for lower income families. If the government is doing wrong by you, I want the advocate to pay for your defense, to fight real estate taxes, to save homes if they go to sheriff's sale. That's my thinking. I'm practical. In my whole life, I've gotten big things done just the way I told you, by listening and action. That's what I want to do here. I don't want to be here 8 years from now and looking at a continuation of what we're experiencing. That's what I'm about. I'm here for you. I spent most of my life working in the neighborhoods, and I know what and who is important to me, and I'm here for you. I will open it up to any questions. Come closer, come closer. You have the mic right there.
Can it come down? Okay, I don't watch you on TV already.
You don't like what?
I said I watch y'all on TV about all of y'all saying the things about the houses, but y'all have abandoned cars just as well as you have abandoned houses. What do y'all do for the senior citizens that have houses that are whatever you just said, you know, because I'm like nervous right now. But y'all have abandoned houses, but you want to put new houses up. What about the senior citizens that have houses that are up and need to be fixed for our children when we get a certain age? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
And
So what you're saying is, in some cases, people own their own home.
Yeah.
They don't have debt on their home, but they don't have money to fix the home up. And the current program the city has is they will lend you the money. But if you don't have a good income, how are you going to pay it back? And I believe that if someone can't live in the house anymore, we're again creating a homeless family we don't want to do. And there should be grants for low-income individuals that own their own home and can't fix it up, so we help them fix that house up and so they can live in that house for an extended period of time. And you mentioned about abandoned cars. If there's an abandoned car, we should remove it because that's blight in your neighborhood. I'm not for that. I agree with you. Let's not make the problem worse. Let's try to help people stay in their homes. If that's it, Dr. Reverend, thank you. Thank you for having me. Bright Hope, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. I want to invite for Mr. Braveman, Will Braveman, who's running for judge. I want to state that there's a timer on both monitors, so that will keep you in compliance to where we are in regards to time. Brother Braveman, let's welcome him as he comes now. Darren McKinney.
Thank you, Dr. Reverend McKinney. I really appreciate this opportunity to speak to you guys. This is a beautiful building, pristine, historic, holy place. Just looking around, really an incredible facility, even in the back. Thank you for having me. Thank you for having us. I'm one of 10 endorsed candidates who's running for judge. There are 10 openings. My name is Will Braveman. Like if you were to say, I am a brave man, that's me. My button number is number 17. I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, tell you a couple stories, and I'm going to end super early. You can ask me whatever questions you like. So I'm a lifetime public servant. I was a City of Philadelphia Law Department attorney for 12 years, the first 12 years of my career. Prior to that, I was a law clerk for 2 different common pleas judges, which I'm now running for. And I was in 3 different units: child welfare, mental health, labor and employment. After that, for the last 12 years, I have my own private practice, and I'm a union attorney. I'm a union designated attorney, so I represent 1,400 City of Philadelphia employees through DC 33, Local 696. So that's who I am, that's what I do. And I know that Dr. King has visited this building, had visited this building. He inspired me. I volunteer with my family every MLK Day, and volunteer work is very, very important to me. I know I had the opportunity to meet a bunch of you when I walked around and I handed out my flyer. And you can see on the back of that flyer 30 different categories of volunteer work that I've done throughout my life, even well before I was an actual attorney. Volunteer work, very important to me, very important that my children understand the value of volunteer work. And I appreciate the volunteer work that you guys do here in this facility. And thank you for that. A couple stories about me. First day that I went into court, and I was there for 4 days a week for 9 years, the judge looked at me when I stood up and started speaking, And he said, "Sir, you're the lawyer for the city? You look like you're 12. And I said, "Yeah, Judge, I have Doogie Howser syndrome." And for 9 years in 1801 Vine Family Court, they referred to me as Doogie Howser. Mr. Gregory was here earlier. He was actually one of my clients. He's a member of this place, and it was nice to see him. I would come into court. I had a stack of materials with me whenever I came. They would tease me about it because these were all the laws that we had to interpret. And they would say to me, "Doogie, it's family court. It's not a Senate hearing. Relax." And I said, it's important to me to apply the law. So it's important to me to have those laws with me as I am in court. And for 9 years, that's what I did. I took it really seriously. When I was a city attorney, second story, I accrued 10 sick days every year that I worked for the 12 years that I worked. And when I left with 120 sick days. I lost 120 sick days when I left the city because I never took a sick day. So you hear about judges who, they don't want to work hard, they want to take the bench late, they want to leave early, they want to go out and play golf, tennis, whatever they're doing, I don't know. That's not the kind of judge that I intend to be. I intend to be a very hardworking judge, take things very seriously, treat everyone with dignity, respect. I am a mental health attorney. What that means is that 4 days per month, I serve the role of a public defender in mental health court in 302 commitment proceedings. I represent the actual patients, try to get them help. But I'm very sensitive to their stories, to the types of issues that plague their lives, and I try to help them rectify those situations. So I've heard a lot of their stories. I've seen things get really hot in court. I've tried to keep things even-keeled. I have a sensitivity for the fact that everyone who walks into court, whether you are a party, a witness, court staff, someone who's cleaning the courthouse, court stenographer, everyone has a different level of stress when they come into court. Court is a stressful place, right? It doesn't need to be that way all the time. And I intend to be a judge who kind of keeps things mellow and tries to calm things down, makes court a safe place that stories can be told, tries to de-escalate things when they get hot. That's the kind of judge that I would like to be, right? Someone that you can go in front of and say, "Hey, this person, he's going to hear the stories, he's going to be fair, he's going to be a good person, he's going to make good decisions, he's going to make fair decisions." So that's me, that's who I am. My button number is number 17. I'm in it about 5 minutes. So if anyone has any questions, which typically they do not, but if you do have questions, I'm happy to answer them. And seeing none, oh, we have one. Okay, yes, sir.
Hi.
Hi.
Just want to know where we have a high level of violence in the city, and you're the first person that a lot of people see during a preliminary hearing, correct? So I wanted to know, like, how do you feel? I know you can't tell me how you would decide on specific cases, but how do you feel about the level of violence, and how do we make people feel be responsible so that we don't have people coming back repeating the same thing and injuring many of our community members?
So your question, just let me make sure I understand it. You're asking me what actions would I take as a judge to make sure that people who have committed crimes don't come back and do it again?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for that question. So first off, nonviolent criminals, it's my belief that mass incarceration is a very serious problem, and nonviolent criminals really don't need to be housed in jails. Okay, I think that's number one. Number two, there's a huge safety issue that exists throughout our cities, and we need to protect people, right? So to your question, in terms of like what I would do is I would try to hold that person accountable. And I would make sure that people can walk the streets and feel safe, and to the greatest extent possible, when a person is in need of services, I want to make sure that they get them. Whether it's drug and alcohol, whether it's mental health services, whether it's a home, a job, these are like core pieces that people need to exist in society. And I think that judges who hold themselves, and by themselves I mean the judges, accountable for people re-entering society in a meaningful way, I think it's going to really help people to become citizens again, you know, and say, hey, you have to go through this program, you have to go through that program, show me that you've completed it, things like that. So I guess the short answer to your question is, you know, there's a balance between safety and services, and hopefully you strike the right balance as a judge. It's a case-by-case kind of analysis. But that's a really, you know, maybe the most important question right now in our city regarding safety. And I do what I can as a judge, is all I can tell you. To a certain extent, judges are just calling balls and strikes, like umpires in a baseball game. But to another extent, they're also keeping society safe, and I would try to do both. Any other questions? Okay, thank you for that question.
Thank you, Mr. Braveman. I'm not sure if that's intentional. Oh, it may be. I'm not sure. Thank you, Mr. Braveman. I see that there are others who have made their presence. I want to make sure that I don't see him. Mr. Young, Jeffrey Young. Ron McLaughlin. Brother Haggins.
Good afternoon, everyone. I spoke to most of you already, but my name is Obona Hagins, Hagins. My ballot number is number 64. I am a candidate for city council at large. Many of you may, if you've listened to WURD, you may have heard me. I speak at every single city council meeting, and I speak on the bills that are on final passage. And one of the reasons why I'm at city council every week is because I want to hold our city officials accountable for what they should be doing and for what they're not doing. As a council member, I think you have the obligation to look out for the people and not for your own best interests. And I just feel over the few decades that many of our elected officials have been looking out for themselves. One of my platform issues is to decrease the economic wealth gap, particularly with Afro-Americans. Crime and violence is a result of poverty. And if we don't deal with the poverty issue, we're not going to be able to deal with the crime issue. You can put as many police officers in the community as you want. You can fly as many drones as you want in the community, but that's not going to solve the problem of crime, because you put the police in the communities and people are broke, they're still going to figure out a way to create crime and violence. So one of my major issues is to create a reparations task force. If you understand that that 60 million white families today can directly link their wealth to the 1850s. Afro-Americans were still enslaved. And I heard someone mention Dr. King. One of my other platform issues is universal basic income. Dr. King talked about that in the 60s. Universal basic income would solve a lot of problems. We have single parents, particularly single mothers, who are working a second job, and they're bringing home an additional $1,000, $1,200 a month. why not give that mother that $1,000 a month and allow her to stay home with her children? And that'll help to deal with this youth violence youth violence that we have in the city. I'm a retired teacher. I taught at Dobbins High School for 9 years. I taught architecture, created an award-winning program. And right now, Dobbins, as well as many of the trade schools in the city, are a shell of what they used to be. There are 12 trades at Dobbins right now. When I left 25 years ago, there were 40. So I will definitely work to establish or reestablish our trades. And on the subject of schools, Philadelphia is the only city in the state that doesn't have an elected school board. We need to have an elected school board. At least 50% of the school board should be elected. And finally, getting back to the economic aspect, you know, there's an office of immigration affairs in City Hall. There's an office of LGBTQ affairs in City Hall. But my question is, where is the office of Afro-American affairs? Why isn't there an office of Afro-American affairs where we can have our issues of crime and poverty and education and loans for businesses addressed? And just remember that Obona Hagans will fight for you, and I've proven that, again, by going to City Council Thursday after Thursday, reading the legislation, speaking on the legislation, and either agreeing with the legislation or disagreeing with the legislation. And one of the issues this past week that I spoke about was the environment in terms of how our gun violence nonprofits have been given funding without being adequately equipped to handle that funding. We had, according to the Inquirer, there were 1/3 of the money that was given out. The nonprofits didn't have a board of directors. So how can that happen when we have city council members who are charged with overseeing, you know, how that money is divvied out? So I'm going to be that watchdog as well, and I'm going to be fighting for you. And if you have any questions, I ask you to, you know, ask them now, or you can reach out to me on my website, hagansforphilly.org, hagansforphilly.org. Thank you.
Yes. What about dealing with the thing about the water crisis that we had, which the mayor and them did not inform us, you know, directly about when this water crisis had. I know that on my cell phone and probably on cell phones we got the message and all, but shouldn't that the mayor or someone had come, you know, and spoke to the people directly, telling them what to do?
So that's a good question. I'm an environmentalist. I'm also known as Philly Green Man. I'm a recycler. So from what I understand is that, number one, the building where the leakage came from, it wasn't the first time that it was leaking. So the question is, again, where were our elected officials in identifying and making sure that that wasn't the case? So we have to have oversight. We have to, you know, according to the charter, city council person has to, you know, do an audit. They have to audit all the different departments in the city. That's what I would do. I would make sure that all of the areas that need to be rectified is rectified. Now, in regards to, you know, the information being put out, I think the mayor did a horrible job. But I also think that if I was in that position, I would make sure that I got on social media. I use social media a lot, and a lot of people are on social media. So I would use that as a mechanism of getting the word out. But I would also use the power of being an elected official and contacting the media, you know, and letting them know firsthand that I would like to come on the air and talk to the people directly about what's going on and what should be done. Any more questions? All right, well, my number is 6'4". I'm on the city council tour. Hagan, 6'4", on the city council tour. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins. Thank you. I want to, as we know that the intent of this moment is for us to weave in candidates as we talk about the importance of the voting process. I want to give time for our state senator, my state senator, our beloved state senator, Sharif Street, to come just say good afternoon to us. Then right after, I would have Reverend Greg Holston to come from and to share remarks, and then we will come back to our candidates, then hear more from our candidates, and I'm glad to see also newly state rep, Anthony Bellman is present today as well. At this time, let's give a hearty welcome, good afternoon to our state senator. Morning.
Morning. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Dr. McKinney, it is always good to be with you. And I have to report to you, I talked to my daughter Shayla, who is a proud member here, and as she's doing well. She just requested her absentee her vote by mail ballot. As you all know, she's finishing up her second year at West Point, and we're so proud of her. And I always think about her because the first thing she always does is ask me about her church and her church family, and she is very fond of Pastor McKinney. But look, I'm here. Want to thank everybody that came out today. Thank Pastor McKinney and all the others. Voting and being civically engaged is so important. It is important because the council members will create policies that impact so much. The judges, and we have statewide judicial candidates, and judges have as much to do with criminal justice and who is treated fairly as anyone else. People focus on the police and the district attorney, and the mayor will hire a police commissioner and run the police department. But the judges have such a huge impact on the quality of justice that people receive, and so you should pay attention to that. And I will say, look, whoever you're going to vote for, you need to participate in the process. And certainly, I have my preferences, and I make no secrets that I'm partial to my former executive director, Jim Harity, who's running for council at large. You get 5 votes for council, but please make Jimmy be one of them. And then I am supportive of Sherelle Parker, who's been my dear friend, and my father and I get to have lots of interesting family dialogue about that because he is a different candidate. But I am supportive of Sherelle and think she will do a great job. But what I think is most important about events like this is that the level of resources that are committed to our communities are so dramatically impacted, not just by who we vote for, but whether we vote. And when people look at communities with lower voter participation, there is a temptation by large elected bodies to pay less attention to those communities. And so I think it's so great and wonderful that this church, which has been a fulcrum for civic engagement for so long, continues in this tradition by hosting this event. And I just thank you all for attending. And thank you, Pastor McKinney, for your leadership and your stewardship of this church and of so many lives, but most especially my baby girl.
Giving honor to the pastor of this house, Dr. McKinney, and the legacy of Bright Hope Baptist Church. And good to see a state senator and his remarks. Again, my name is Reverend Gregory Holston. I'm the senior advisor in the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office and been involved in social justice movements in the city for over 20, 30, 40 years. I was asked to come and just to share for a moment why voting is so important. And so I could share it with a lot of different stories, but I want to share this one story as we talk about gun violence here in the city of Philadelphia. And while voting and picking your elected officials are so important, our city budget is about $5.6 billion. State budget probably close to $40 billion, with a surplus, I guess, about $14 billion or so now, as I look at the state senator. These resources and directing these resources are the responsibilities of these political leaders. In 2013, a decision was made with the mayor of the city, some city council members, and the school board to close 23 schools here in the city of Philadelphia. At that time, U.S. Department of Justice came in and said very clearly, if you close these schools, you will have a dramatic rise in gun violence. Now, so these are the political leaders we selected. In 2013, they made the decision, even in spite of what they said, to close them anyway. And now here, 10 years later, we see the gun violence rise that they talked about. So much of what we are seeing in terms of violence was a decision of policymakers in this city. Many of them are not around for the judgments that they made, but the effect of their judgments still are occurring today. That's why voting is so important. Who you put into office won't just affect tomorrow, won't just affect next week or next month. It may affect a decade from now of the problems that your young people, your family, or you are going to be dealing with 10 years from now, because we don't make good judgments on who is actually elected. And to follow the last part of that story, how I know that to be true is that schools closed have caused and create much of this gun violence is because I know a barber in Germantown who works with young people for 20 years and has worked hard with those young people to give them a better direction, give them football and basketball and other sports programs. And when Germantown High School was closed, and those young people who were looking forward to going to that high school to play football, to play basketball, to continue the work they had been doing that gave them value, that gave them worth. When they closed that high school, they didn't go to Martin Luther King that was 3 miles away. They didn't go to any high school. And the energy that they put into basketball and football, they literally began to put into gun violence. The story is that they actually keep score on how many people they kill each other, like it's a sporting event. That is the lasting legacy of decisions that were made 10 years ago by the political figures at that time. And when you vote today or in the next 2 weeks, think about what decisions and what people are making that you're going to vote for, because it's going to have a lasting legacy on this city and your community. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Reverend Greg Holston. He had me detained earlier. We had a roundtable discussion around politics, faith, and the alike. Thank you so very much, Reverend Holston. Again, I want to echo my appreciation to our board members. I see one has made her arrival, Dr. Shields, Denise Ray Shields. Thank you so very much. We have been intentional in meeting with Respect for Life, our consulting firm that helped us navigate through this day, to make contact and send literature to over 1,000 residents in our community, because we want to make sure that we up the vote for this current election cycle. And we did so many PR releases and media press releases, etc., to express the importance of this moment. And we're going to continue to move forward, and I'm going to invite forward now Sister Sherry Cohen. She's going to come forth. She's running for council at large. Sister Sherry's going to come forth, and then we'll come back and introduce our next candidate.
have to bring this down to size a little. Hello, Bright Hope. It's awesome to be here and great to be here with Dr. McKinney. I was here for the memorial service of Mary Lee. And I know she was a member of this church for over 50 years. Yeah. And I have known her for over 50 years because she's been a committee person in my ward, 17th Ward. And so it was really great to be here for that service. She was an incredible woman. Thank you so much for the service, Dr. McKinney. Also, it's great to see Minister Muhammad here. Great to see you here today. And our elected officials as well, especially our newest, one of our newest, State Rep Bellman, also State Senator Sharif Street. Great to see you. So I'm running for City Council at large. I'm the second name on the ballot. Once you get down to the at-large people on your ballot, my number is 54. I am running for council because I have been a fighter for justice my whole life, and I have been very active in fighting on city issues for the past 20 years, but I did begin when I was a much younger person. When I was in college here in the city, I was going to University of Pennsylvania, and by that point, Penn had already moved out so many black residents from what had been called the Black Bottom in West Philly. So a bunch of us students, together with community members, said we are going to protest if the university does not follow through on its promise to build low-income housing, which they said that was going to be the next thing they were going to build once they had already moved out so many people. They made a pledge that they're going to build low-income housing next. So what happened was, not surprising, they broke their pledge to the community, the neighbors, and the student community. And the next thing they built was a hotel. So we had a student group there at school, and we said we're going to sue to try to stop the university from reneging on its pledge to build low-income housing. So we tried to stop the construction of the hotel. We did not succeed, but we did slow down the construction. So at least it was something that we together as a group of students, together with neighborhood residents, tried to do. So I'm a lawyer today. I'll tell you a little bit about that. But even before I was a lawyer, I got involved with a group of women who together, we were a group of women, some who were formerly incarcerated, and some of us had not been, together with women who are currently incarcerated at Muncie, SCI Muncie, State Correctional Institution at Muncie. And we said, we heard about all the problems and with the conditions there, and how whatever services were in the men's prisons, they just were not in existence at the women's prisons, from rehabilitation, medical services. There were all kinds of toxins in the prison. And we said, all right, we're going to see if we can get lawyers to sue, because none of us in our group of women were lawyers. So we brought together a bunch of lawyers. Actually, I think they were women, all women lawyers, and we filed a class action lawsuit to try to change the conditions and have better conditions for women in the prison. And so that was one of my first legal actions before I became an attorney. So in recent years, I've been a tenant rights attorney, and so I've been representing low-income tenants against slum landlords in the city, and trying to protect people from eviction and homelessness and lead poisoning. And so I have a lot of issues on my platform related to housing and affordable housing that I'll go into in a minute. But I also want to mention that I'm one way that I'm still so proud of is in the fight for strong city services and strong communities. I was one of the lawyers who sued a former mayor when he wanted to close 11 neighborhood libraries permanently. We had a great recession. Oh, I see the time right there. Okay, I hadn't seen it before. There's a clock right here when you get here. I was wondering where it was because you mentioned it. It is right here. All right, so he wanted to close 11 neighborhood libraries permanently, and we heard Reverend Halston come up and talk about how that same former mayor closed over 20 neighborhood schools. And I'm against closures. I'm for community. We need our spaces, we need our schools, we need our libraries, we need our rec centers, and we need full funding. We need after-school programs in our libraries and in our rec centers and in our schools. But back to what I was saying about how we had a former mayor who was seeking to close neighborhood libraries. I was already part of the Friends group of my local neighborhood library. And we joined together with friends of the other libraries that were facing closure. We formed a citywide coalition called Coalition to Save Our Libraries. We protested citywide, and then I joined with a group of other lawyers, and we said, we're going to sue the mayor and try to stop this from happening. Because I guess what I want to convey is, as community, we know we cannot take what our electeds say as written, that it's written in stone. Like when we first started protesting the decision to close these libraries, we were told, there's nothing you can do about it. Decision's been made, you're just wasting your time. Why are you protesting? That's a waste. You know, nothing, the decision's made, you're done. Just forget about it. I said, no, we're not gonna forget about it. We're gonna keep on keeping on. So we got a ruling from the judge. The libraries were supposed to close December 31st of that year. The ruling came down on December 30th that you cannot, that the mayor did not have the authority to close the libraries. And it was a great people's victory. It was like a combination when you have lawyers that the community trusts who go to bat with the community to save our communities, really. And that's just a lot of who I am. I'm a fighter for our communities. I have a big platform of lots of issues I'm fighting for. I know my time is running out, but as a housing attorney, I've been fighting for more funding for low-income housing for over 10 years. I'm seeking rent control. We need to put a limit on how much landlords can raise the rent each year, because people are getting pushed out. The rate of push out, we all know it, we all see it, and when you look at the numbers, it is as scary as we feel it, which is that 32% of Black Philadelphians have been pushed out of North Philly, West Philly, and South Philly in the last 2 decades. And we need elected officials who are going to fight back against this gentrification. And it's just unconscionable that communities have not been protected. And one way that I'm pushing for protection is through rent control. There's already legislation that has been proposed in City Council. If you or you know people who are small landlords, it doesn't mean you can never raise the rent. It just means that it can only go up a certain percentage per year, often related to consumer price index, you know, the rate of inflation. I remember a phone call I was on one day. I used to work at an organization called TURN, Tenant Union Representative Network. It is the one-stop shop for tenants who have any issues, who want to come in and meet with housing counselors of how to save their housing. And we have a hotline. So I was on the hotline one day, and this woman about my age called, and it's at a time when my mom was still alive, and her mom was about the same age as my mom, which was the middle 90s. She had lived in an apartment over 30 years. She had everything there, but the landlord was almost doubling the rent because he could, and he wanted to bring in more people to make more money. And her mom was going to have to move. She was 94 years old. And the daughter lived in New York. And she said, well, we have rent control in New York and rent stabilization. You don't have anything like that here? I said, I'm so sorry. We don't have anything like that here. And she said, that would just kill my mom, being displaced from her home of over 30 years. So rent control is something that Philly used to have in the 1940s, and more cities there's a big wave across the country now because people are getting pushed out. The rent is too damn high, and we have to protect our communities. My time is out. I want to ask if there's any questions, or are we out of time?
Because the number has grown with more candidates,
Okay.
we're going to allow candidates to only speak and no questions. So we want to make sure that we're sensitive to everyone's time because I recognize that there are other forums happening. I want to make sure that you're able to go to your next scheduled appearance. Thank you so very much. I want to say, Sister Cohen, Mary Lee was 81 years of membership here, not 50, 81 years. She was an 81-year member here, transitioned at 94 years young, transitioned 94 years young. So thank you for that. Thank you for that memory. Also, I want to say that Deacon Raymond, who's a faithful board member of our church, of our nonprofit Bridge of Hope, as well as our church, he is present as well. Thank you, Deacon Raymond, for your leadership. I want to ask to come forth. I know that, again, as I shared those candidates, we're going to make sure that we merge those on our working list along with the ones that I have in my hand. We're going to ask Brother Christopher Gladstone Booth to come forth. Then thereafter, we will hear from Commissioner Lisa Dealey. She's present. At this time, we're going to give opportunity for Brother Booth, who's running for council at large.
Thank you, Dr. McKinney, Reverend Muhammad, my Morales brother, Senator Sharif Street. Thank you for Bright Oak Baptist Church for having me. My name is Christopher Gladstone Booth, and I am running for City Council at large. My button number is number 78, and I really would appreciate the thing that should be near and dear to your heart, which is your vote. The reason why well, let me give you a little background on who I am. I'm homegrown, born and raised in the city of Philadelphia. I went to Morehouse College where I received a degree in biology with a minor in physics and math. I came back to the city of Philadelphia and I worked 30 years as a systems engineer. I retired early because I wanted to take care of 2 sick parents, and I was the only caregiver. When I realized that their lives were coming to an end and I knew I had to go back to work, I'm a TK, and I told my mother, who was a teacher, I said, well, I think I'm going to have to go back to work, and I think I'm going to teach school, and she told me not to do it, and she's probably turning over in her grave because I'm a school teacher. When I first became a teacher and went through site selection, they said the one school you don't want to go to is Kenderton, which is at 15th and Ontario. And I said, I'm going to Kenderton because I knew they needed people who looked like me. And from there, I went to W.C. Bryant, another school where they said, it's a tough school, it's in a tough neighborhood, and you're going to struggle there. And I went to W.C. Bryant for that same reason. To give you a little bit more background, I'm a committeeman in 2221. I'm also a board member of East Mount Airy Neighbors. I grew up between East Mount Airy and South Philadelphia. I'm also a Pleasant Playground council member. But my whole life for the last, well, I won't say my whole life, for the last 10 to 12 years, I've been giving my life to educating kids and giving back to my community. And the reason why I'm running for city council is because I got a chance to see up close and personal, a front row seat on the things that plague this city. And how I got a chance to do that was by teaching school. You really want to know what's going on in your community, teach school. my platform is basically, the cornerstone is education. But when you look at the things that plague this city, if you look at it as a pyramid, the top of the pyramid is, of course, public safety. That's at the very pinnacle. But resting on that is both education and poverty, of which I have issues that or have a platform to address both of them. In the city of Philadelphia, we have approximately 45% of the crime that's being committed in the city of Philadelphia, we're told, are being committed by African American males. Yet less than 2% of the teachers in the city of Philadelphia are African American males. That statistic should jump off the page, and we have to make that disconnect connected. One of the things I'm really am an advocate of is getting more and more African American males to teach school, but specifically when they first come out of the homes in the kindergarten, first, second, and third grade. Not the sexy positions, but the positions that are going to have the greatest impact on our community. Because let me tell you, Bright Oak Baptist, these boys are craving for role models. They're craving for people that look like us. They're craving for people, when they realize their dreams of being maybe LeBron and Jay-Z may not happen, they can be a Christopher Gladstone Booth or a Dr. McKinney or a Sharif Street. They know that they can be those people because we come from similar backgrounds, and now they actually have role models they can look toward. So that's, again, a big part of my platform. But the other part is poverty. The poverty, I got a chance to go through the Assessment of Fair Housing document, and it shows all the impediments that are plaguing people with getting access to fair housing. But it's hard to teach a child, Newton's law of gravity or the Pythagorean theorem when they know that they go home to a situation that's unstable in terms of their housing. And those impediments that are stopping these parents from getting access to the housing, not getting access to the 8,600 properties that are in the land bank, not going through the 10 to 12 month period to try to get access, that has to be removed because a lot can go on during that time. And again, it's slowing us moving the needle forward for the city that we all love. So as a city council at large person, I plan on making inroads on each one of those issues. That is my commitment, that is my charge, because I understand that if those issues are addressed, we can move the needle forward for this city. So I'm not going to take the entire time because I could tell you about my platform for fair housing. I could tell you about my platform for education. I could go into all the details. All that is on my website. If you go to cgbooth4council.com, and you can get direct access to me. But what I'd like to leave you with is this. Zip codes and city boundaries should not determine the life expectancy of our kids or the quality of the education that these kids are getting, and that's what's happening. Zip codes determine whether crime is being managed or whether crime is being prevented. That has to stop. In certain neighborhoods, crime is being managed. In other neighborhoods, crime is being prevented. We are all one in this city, so it has to be prevented in all the zip codes. So I am asking you for your vote on May 16th. I am button number 78. I make you this promise. If I am elected to city council as a city council person at large, I will make you a promise that those three issues, poverty, education, and public safety, will be addressed, and will be addressed with the kind of intentions that I think you'll be real proud of as your elected officials. So thank you, and I would appreciate your vote. Christopher Gladstone Booth, number 78. Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sister Lisa Dealey is our commissioner. She's going to come forth to share remarks. And then after she should have come forth, we're going to go back to our schedule. We're going to give remarks, space for our commissioner to share remarks. Then we're going to go back to our schedule. We're going to ask the Sheriff Bilal to come forth after Sister Lisa. Then after Sister Sheriff Bilal, we'll have Elizabeth Hall Lowe. Elizabeth Hall Lowe. Thank you, Sister Commissioner.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for the opportunity and the privilege to be here this afternoon with each of you, and a special thanks to my dear friend, Reverend Muhammad. So I am here as your city commissioner today because there's a lot of people that are coming here and they're talking to you about their plans for the future, their candidates. They're trying to get you to vote for them. There's some you may choose to vote for. That's fabulous. In order to do any of that, you need to make sure that you are registered to vote. And because it is a primary election, you need to be sure that you are registered in the party in which you want to vote in. So if you're listening to a candidate and you like he or she or them, and you want to make sure that you're registered in the party that they are running in, because that's how you will be able to vote for them. So if you like a Democratic candidate, you have to be, and you want to vote for them, you have to be registered a Democrat. If you like a Republican candidate and you want to be able to vote for them, you need to be registered Republican. In Pennsylvania, our primary elections are closed, so you can only vote the party that you are registered. May 1st, Monday, May 1st is the last day for Pennsylvanians to register to vote. So if you need to register to vote, if you need to make a change to your voter registration, change your name, change your address, change your party, you need to do that by May the 1st. You can do it online at vote.phila.gov, or you can use one of these paper applications. We have brought some here with us. Feel free to take some home with you. Ask your neighbors, ask your family members, ask your friends, especially if you have any young people around you that may be 18 on or before May 16th. We want to make sure that they are also registered to vote so that their voice can be heard and they can be part of the process. If you would like to vote by mail, that opportunity is still available as well. You have until May the 9th to apply to vote by mail. Even if you're on the permanent mail voting list, so if you voted by mail last year in November and you're on the permanent list, you would have had to have reapplied to get your mail ballot for this year. So if you want to vote by mail and you haven't applied in January or February, you want to make sure that you apply for the mail ballot so that you can be sure to get your mail ballot for the May 16th primary election. Those applications are also here. Again, all this information and so much more is available on our website at vote.phila.gov. My name is Lisa Deely. I am the City Commissioner of Philadelphia, and I just want to thank you for the opportunity to be here. Anybody in the audience work the polls for us on Election Day? Okay, so we are always looking for help on Election Day. If anybody's interested in working the polls, they can reach out on that website as well. But I just wanted to let everybody know that there will be a little something different at the polls for you on May 16th. Instead of signing your name in a paper poll book, you're going to sign your name on a little iPad screen like you do when you go to Wawa or Dunkin' Donuts. So don't be startled by that change. We're just modernizing the way Philadelphia votes. Again, my name's Lisa Deely. I'm the City Commissioner, and it's been my privilege to be with you all today. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Y'all wake up, wake up, wake up. I'm running in here because we just gave a autism town hall resource fair in South Philly that was huge. It's about 1,000 people. I've been up since 6 o'clock this morning. So I'm not going to keep you long. I'm Rochelle Bilal. You know me if you're a Bright Hope family because I'm one of your children. I'm running for re-election. My badge, my number is 50. You know that was my number when I first ran? 50. So it's 50 again. Let me tell you, don't listen to the haters and false narrative. I have people who are mad. When I ran for election, I got a mandate to overhaul that office. And if I had to overhaul that office, that means I was going to make some people mad. And so they are. When I take $5 million out of your pocket on advertisement, you're mad. But that's okay, because that money goes more into those people who are losing that property for excess proceeds than to go into their advertising paper. I'm running to be reelected. I'm asking you to support me so I can finish the job. I got in there and I'm updating that sheriff office. Technology-wise, people-wise, information-wise, policy-wise, everything that I need to do, I'm updating that sheriff's office. So I still need time to do it. I'm asking you to support me so I can help finish the job. I got a millionaire running against me, so I think I need y'all to go on to RochelleBalal.com and donate to my campaign, because anytime you get a millionaire who ran for everything every year, I need some money. I'm just saying, I got a millionaire running against me, so I need y'all's support. But just think, I'm gonna keep doing this job for the people. I'm in the community. Any people that have run against me, have y'all seen them anywhere up until now? Have you heard them anywhere up until now? Have they invested in our communities up until now? None of them. I've been out here. I've been out in every community around the city, and I'm going to continue to do that. When we have discretionary funds in the sheriff's office, I spend it on y'all. We just helped manage a pop-up clinic that came in this city in April. Thousands of people got served. Almost $2 million in dental, eyeglasses, everything. Almost $2 million of service free. And we're going to bring it back again. So I'm saying vote for me, May the 16th. My lever is 5-0. But just note, I'm the only woman running in this position. And I'm right there second in the sheriff part. I appreciate y'all, and I'll see you out there on the trail. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Sheriff. Thank you. This position is very vital, and oftentimes we take it for granted, the Register of Wills. And I think my eyes are correct. Today is Sister Elizabeth Hall Lowe's birthday. She's coming on her birthday to share remarks about the importance of this seat and her platform. At this time, Sister Lowe is going to come.
Good afternoon. I want to thank you guys for having me. Pastor, I want to thank you for this opportunity. I truly appreciate it. My name is Elizabeth Hall Lowe, and I am currently running for the Office of Register of Wills here in the city of Philadelphia. I am a product of the Philadelphia public school system. I attended Kenderton Elementary, where you heard was a rough school to go to. I then went on to Dobbins, where I graduated, and I went to Morris College in Sumter, South Carolina, where I received my degree in biology with a minor in chemistry and environmental science. And right now, I work at GSK, GlaxoSmithKline, a major pharmaceutical company here in the state of Pennsylvania. What I do there is I am a compliance solutions lead, but I work on the global scale. My job is to digitize that pharmaceutical company, the entire one across the world, so that at any moment of the day, I can look at my phone and see exactly what's happening with all our clinical trials and medicines being made. If I can do that for the world, I can do it for Philly. This office is extremely important, and most people overlook the Register of Wills or have no idea what the Register of Wills is. This office is more than just where you go to get your marriage license. It's more than where you go to file your will. It's more than probate and estates. This office affects your day-to-day lives, and most people don't even know it. If somebody passes away and they have no will, you have to come down here. And it is paper-based, which means you have to trek all the way to City Hall, pay for $40 in parking, if not more, or fight your way through the subway system. One thing I want to do is change that. By digitizing the office, I will be able to set up satellite offices so that, one, our seniors will not have to get all the way to City Hall. You can walk to a building in your neighborhood and talk to somebody that looks just like you about what is happening in your life. Most people come to this office in extreme moods. Either they're extremely happy because you're getting married, or you're extremely sad because somebody passed away. But when you focus in extremes, anytime people work in extreme feelings, you are not putting your best foot forward. That does not mean you don't deserve the best result. And I am running so that that happens. I am running so that this office is accessible to people, especially our seniors, that the education of this office is readily out there, not just when we are campaigning, but every day of the year, no matter who is in this office. And I am running because I want to make this office transparent. You should know what is happening. This office also collects inheritance tax. The revenue for this office can range anywhere between $80 million to $120 million. That is your money. And what people don't understand is that when it comes to inheritance tax, they tax you. If you have a house, they tax you on what the house is worth, not what you bought the house for. So that means if you live in Girard and you bought your house for $50,000 back in the 60s and it's worth $1.5 million now, you are paying 20% of that $1.5 million. I wish I had that type of money. And most of us do not. And I want to fix that. Now, can I change the taxes? No, I cannot. That is state level and it is above my purview. But what I can do is talk to the people in the state who I'll be working with daily and make sure they understand that let's not tax people on what you think they have, and let's tax it on what they have. If you were going to inherit this, let's inherit it for what grandma bought it for in the 60s and not what you think we have now. We are the largest, poorest city, so why are you taxing us as if we are rich? I want to open up that line of communication between the city of Philadelphia and the state when it comes to that. We talk about tangled titles. That is a big thing for this office in the moment. Technically, it is a conflict of interest because this is also orphan clerk. That means that the person in this office is also a judge. So if you have a tangled title, you are going to court about this house. You have to prove that this house is yours and that you are an inheritant. And whoever the register is the person you are doing this in front of. That means they have to be impartial. The one thing that I want to do, that I can do with this office, is again, speak to the state. And just like they have programs that freeze your taxes, whatever you pay right now, that wipe away debt for people that can't afford it, why not set it up that if you can prove that you've been in this house, like squatters, for 10 years, that you've paid the bills, that you've maintained this home, and you can prove that you are the heir to this property, why not set it up that we can wipe away whatever it is and put your name on this house and not charge you a fortune to do it? Because that is what's happening. And with the contact with the state, because I will be working closely with them if I'm in this office, I will make sure to have some of our state representatives write this legislation to make this an office. They have done it before for other things in Philadelphia. Why can't they do it for housing? Everybody is talking about generational wealth. Well, this is our generational wealth. And it's sad that most of it is wrapped up with the state and through red tape, and I want to cut through it. I cut through it on a daily basis for the pharmaceutical companies and for different federal agencies around the world. I can cut through it for the city of Philadelphia. I am from here. As I told you, I'm a product of the Philadelphia school system. So fighting is in me. And I want to use that fight and that drive to better us. So my name is Elizabeth Hall Lowe. I am running for the office of Registered Wills here in the city of Philadelphia. I am button 45 on the ballot. And if you want a real fighting chance and somebody to fight for you, I'm your person. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy birthday to you. I wish I could sing that to you, but because I'm not a singer, I can't. We have a number of the candidates, and they're going to come up right after we give room to this young general served faithfully our Congressman Brennan Boyle, and he and I talked. He said that he felt the Lord leading him to the state level, and he put his name in the hat, and the Lord allowed him to enter into office. I'm excited that I can call him any time of the day and ask him any question I would need, and he will be there to show up. This young general is leading our state now. He's present with us today. Let us give hand clap to Anthony Bellman. He's going to come forward just to greet us and say hello and share the importance of this moment. Thank you for being here.
I am from the church, so I can go ahead and say praise the Lord, everybody. I'm not running for office, but what the young man who was running for city council at large was talking about earlier, about the importance of having black men in the classroom, I wholeheartedly believe that's important. Before I joined Congressman Boyle's office and served as his constituent service rep starting in 2015 and ended up working my way up to a senior advisor on Capitol Hill before I ran for office, I used to be a math teacher. So I taught 7th and 8th grade math around the corner in Young Scholars Charter School, and then I also taught in Trenton, New Jersey. So math to me is very important, and when we're talking about the ability to vote and why it's important to vote, I want everybody to know that it's really all down to the math. It's down to the science and it's down to the math. How many people took your census in 2020? All right. And why do we take our census in 2020? Because that's how we know that we are what? Counted, right? That's how we know that we're counted. And because of the census in 2020, basically they rearranged all of the maps in Pennsylvania and really all of the maps in the entire country. And in Pennsylvania, my district that I now represent, the 203rd district, the number existed, but not where it was, right? Not where it is. So when they changed those maps, because people, black and brown people, organized, we went out and knocked on doors and we told people how important it is to be counted in the United States Census. They created a new map, and which allowed me to run for office, and now I'm the state representative for the 203rd Legislative District, which encompasses Alany, Longcrest, Lawndale, and Oxford Circle. But also what happened with that is that Democrats were allowed for the first time to really run for state representatives in maps that actually counted people and wasn't gerrymandered. So when we started voting and we started counting ourselves in the census and then we voted about it, we got to another number. The number was 102. Everybody say 102. Say it again, 102. Y'all gonna be my math class today. All right, good. Now everybody's paying attention. 102. In order for anything to pass the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, it takes 102 votes in order for it to get out of the House. Everybody say 12. So before the bill gets to the floor of the House, it needs 12 votes in committee, something we call committee. Those 12 votes signifies that it can get out of committee, and now we can bring it to the larger body of 102 votes in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. So there's 203, I'm the last number, 203. There's 203 representatives in the Pennsylvania House, but it takes 102 votes in order to pass anything out of the Pennsylvania House. And we're talking about, and I know Sherelle Parker knows all about this because she used to be the head of the Philadelphia delegation and served in the Pennsylvania House for over 10 years. So we have 12 votes in order to get out of committee. We have 102 votes in order to pass the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, and then it goes to the Senate, which it has to pass, and then once it gets to the Senate, it can get to the governor's desk in order to sign. Now I used to work in Washington, D.C., and I worked on Capitol Hill, and the time that I worked on the Hill, it was one thing that Philadelphia was always worried about, and it was gun violence. It was how are we going to go ahead and end the gun violence in the city of Philadelphia, but also around this country. And because we changed our, what time I got? How many times I got? I don't want to go over. 10 minutes? Okay. So, I got you. Oh, it's counting down. I get you. My math again. So because we changed, y'all my math class, y'all gonna stay with me. Because we got to, down in D.C., we were looking and trying to find out how were we going to end gun violence in the city of Philadelphia. And then you guys took a census, and then we voted, and then the Pennsylvania House changed, and then y'all allowed me to go ahead and run for office, and I ended up becoming a state representative. Last week, we were allowed to pass 4 gun violence bills out of the Judiciary Committee. So remember I told y'all, it started with 12, We got those 12 votes inside of the committee. And then it's going to end up going into the floor, which is 102 votes that it needs to pass. And because we voted, we now have a majority in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, which will allow us to get to the 102 votes in the Pennsylvania House to eventually pass those 4 very important gun legislations in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives. But what else did that 102 votes allow us to get? It allowed us to get the first black woman to ever sit as Speaker of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives, Joanna McClinton. What else will those 102 votes allow us to get? It will allow us to protect housing. It will allow us to eliminate gun violence, and it also will allow us to make sure that funds and services are in Philadelphia straight from Harrisburg. So y'all my math class and y'all sticking with me, right? All right. So the thing that gets me about this next race that we're in, when we're talking about city council and we're talking about the mayoral race, is that a lot of people are hoping that black people don't count. That's the mission of it, and I've spoken with a lot of people, and I used to, Pastor knows this too, I work in campaigns too, so I served as political director for the congressman, and I also served as the Southeast PA political director for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in 2020. And so anytime you want to win a race, math class, you got to get to something they call a win number. All right, and then your win number is how many votes do I need in order to win? And they know that based on different communities, what the turnout is going to be. And so there's a lot of people running for mayor, and there's a lot of people running for city council that's hoping black people don't know how to count. I'm just going to be real with you. They're hoping that when you go out to vote, they're also hoping that you don't count how many times they didn't show up in your neighborhood. They're hoping that you don't count how many times they never provided services for you. They're hoping that you don't count how many times they never really cared about your community until recently. And they're hoping that you don't show up. So math class, I need y'all to stick with me. And on May 16th, I need y'all to count exactly how many people showed up to your neighborhood when you needed them. I need you to count how many people actually did something on your block and for your community, because in order for a lot of people to get to their win number, they hoping y'all don't show up to the polls. So if Pastor asked me today to come and to tell you why it's important to vote, I'm going to make it a math equation. And the math equation has to be each and every single vote counts. And as you are going out to your communities and to your neighborhoods, remember that it took all of you voting in order for us to get to 102 votes. And that number was important for about 90 days. And if we didn't get to that 102 votes, we couldn't have the first black woman that's Speaker of the House of Representatives. If we didn't get to those 102 votes, we wouldn't have the 12 votes in the committee in order to pass four bills out of the Pennsylvania House of Representatives that helps out with gun violence. And if we don't get to those 102 votes, we can't do all the things we need to do up in Harrisburg in order for us to bring resources to our community. So as we're going out and on May 16th, that's another number, May 16th, make sure y'all vote for people who showed up. And I'm telling you, don't allow people to take our votes for granted. Don't allow people to take our voices for granted, and don't allow people to count you out. Thank you. I'm State Representative Anthony Bellman, and make sure everybody goes out and vote.
I think if we had an organ, we could have put an organ cue and allowed you to close, Sharp, brilliant brain in the personality of my good friend and brother Anthony Bellman, who was articulating facts, having been at Harrisburg and saw the contention with the Republicans around voting on sensible gun reform. And I'm so excited to know that we now have the first woman, African American, Speaker of the House in Harrisburg, and we're excited about the work that's going to happen under her leadership. We are almost near a close, and there are about 2 more pamphlets I have in my hand. However, I want to go back to the list. And I want to, at this time, ask to come forward. This particular person is This is a partisan event, but this particular person is my wife's shopping buddy, and I want her to come forward. She's running for mayor, that being Sister Parker. Sherelle Parker is going to come forth. Then thereafter, I did not know this gentleman was running for city council until somebody said Jeffrey Young. I said, what? Jeffrey Young, he's present. He's going to come share words right after candidate Mayor Parker, and then we'll hear from Brother Young, and then we'll go down the line to Sister McMurray. McMurray? Close enough. I do apologize. And Brother Joe. We'll hear them in that order. At this time, let's give a hand to Sister Sherelle Parker.
Thank you so very much, Pastor McKinney. I thought you were about to start telling our secrets, so
no,
you can't tell
First
Lady's secrets and our secrets. No, and good brother ministers, good to see you here as well. For the benefit of the viewing public, my name is Sherelle Parker. I am a candidate for mayor of the city of Philadelphia, and I have been sharing at all of the forums we've attended that my lived life experience has been closest to the people who are feeling the most pain in our city, and that uniquely qualifies me, along with my level of intergovernmental experience that is matched by no one else in this campaign, to make Philadelphia the safest, cleanest, and greenest big city in the nation that will provide access to economic opportunity for all. I do want to state for the record, and Representative Bellman, you know this, as I was getting prepared for this run, Pastor and Brother Minister, there were some people who said I should introduce myself to Philadelphia by telling them that I was a Lincoln grad, first generation college graduate in my family, first generation Ivy League graduate in my family, Eisenhower Fellow, and some other things I've been fortunate enough to do, council, state house, and they said I should start right there. But if I started right there, you wouldn't have known that I was born to a single teenage mother who got pregnant with me not far from here in Richard Allen Projects. And they moved from there to 7th and Dauphin, and from there to Northwest Philadelphia. And my grandmother and grandfather raised me. If you just heard that other stuff, that wouldn't tell you anything about who I am and why I'm so passionate about the things that I am advocating for. My grandmother was a domestic worker. I know lots of people haven't heard about what that means. They're now called environmental technicians. When my grandmother did it, she and the matriarchs in my family, they cleaned the homes of wealthy people. Envelopes were left on the table, but it took them out of the tax structure. Because of that, I grew up on welfare. Now, I know everybody thinks that it means that it is a plastic-like credit card, but when I grew up receiving it, you had to go pick it up at a 3-2 center. And we got colored money in books with purple 20s, green 10s, brown dollars. And I did get the 5-pound block of cheese. We didn't have a slicer, so it never sliced as thin as I wanted it to slice, but it made the best macaroni and cheese in the whole wide world. See, if I started where the experts started, you would know that about me. So when I say safer is Parker introducing a comprehensive neighborhood safety and community policing plan during my tenure as a member of city council, when others were engaging in what I like to call, I know what's best for you's people policy making. And they were recommending that we engage in governing by using slogans like defund the police. The only challenge with that is that people in my neighborhood were saying, you want us to defund the police? I want officers walking the beat and riding the bike in my neighborhood, getting to know the communities that they were sworn to protect and serve. Listen, but with zero tolerance for any misuse and or abuse of authority. Never will we go back to the Rizzo days when officers would think that they could beat me over the head or my 10-year-old son because he happens to be chocolate just like me. But we have a right to have both. criminal justice reform, well-trained, respectful officers who are there as guardians and not warriors. Under Parker administration, we will have it and we will do it across the city. Cleaner, safer, cleaner, greener, access to economic opportunity for all. Cleaner. I need Philadelphia to know that I am not an auditor and I am not a departmental manager. I am a leader. My job requires me to not simply be an expert articulator of problems. You know it. Even think about your own life. People will go around and around letting you know how well they know the problem. But the question is, what about the solution? Streets are dirty. Get under my skin. Remember, grandmother, domestic worker, scrub outside marble steps. I hate dirt. Call my city Philadelphia. I need to figure out a way to solve the problem. I developed a program called PHLTCB, Philadelphia Taking Care of Business. Novel idea, not new. I stole it from Center City. Watching somebody drop trash in the middle of the street, but seeing somebody with a hat with a nice logo and a vest on use pickers to pick up the trash and put it in the trash can. I said, downtown's not cleaner than neighborhoods because people don't drop trash. It's cleaner because they've been smart enough to make it somebody's job to pick up the trash. Why can't we do this in neighborhoods? Pay our people $15 an hour. Give them access to soft skills training, resume writing. Put them on the pipeline so that they can eventually become civil service workers, having health care and retirement security, not poverty pimping, as some people do when they engage in that. I know what's best for you's people policy making. That's not Parker, and a Parker administration won't look like that. Challenge dirty neighborhoods. Solution, PHLTCB. It's now a citywide program. Safer, cleaner, greener. I'm unapologetic about the environmental benefits that a greener city provides. The use of open spaces. It's only added value that the University of Pennsylvania produced a report that affirmed that there's a statistically significant difference in the reduction of crime in neighborhoods that have access to greening versus those that do not. We want to make sure Philadelphia is greener. I want to use the potential of a hydrogen hub. Representative Bellman, we're going to need your help in advocating the Biden administration to help us get that. New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, developing a clean hydrogen hub right here in our Northeast region. Create 30,000 new jobs where people can be trained to do the work using what we call the first true blue-green alliance between unions and the environmental community, storing hydrogen, processing hydrogen, delivering hydrogen so that it can be used as a form of energy and power in our city. Safer, cleaner, greener, access to economic opportunity for all. This one's important to me, economic opportunity, because it's where I want all people to go. And you can't do it without quality public education. What does it look like? It looks like year-round education. It looks like acknowledging that all of our children are not growing up in Cosby families or Leave It to Beaver-like families with Ward and June as parents. It looks like there are some children growing up just like me on public assistance being cared for by someone other than their biological parents who need a shot. So how do you deliver it? Open all schools as early as 7:30 in the morning. Don't close schools any earlier than 6 p.m. Access to every educational opportunity that you see being provided in private institutions. What services and supports are you talking about? How about financial literacy? How about the fact that I had home ec? How about the fact that I had wood shop and carpentry? I mean, that's how I know that I learned in metal shop that I couldn't do it because I made not just the pot holder, but the napkin holder, and I bent it crooked, so I knew I wasn't good at that. Our kids will never know because they right now don't have access to the opportunity. So I want you to think about an education system where every industry growing in the city of Philadelphia, our children are being trained. Life sciences and biotech, stem cell research is growing. Firms have to recruit across the nation when their headquarters are here because we don't have the skilled workers, but we have a school district in CCP. Why aren't we marrying the private sector to those institutions? That's what you have to look forward to in a Parker administration. And then finally, on access to economic opportunity, we need to build 30,000 units of affordable housing. We're going to do it. We need to be rebuilding schools and not debating the remediation of asbestos and lead, but our children should be trained to do the building. So Parker is partnering with the building trades, these skilled workers who can train our young people for union membership so they'll be the ones and the future contractors building the schools that they attend, building the housing that we need. And there won't be units where we're building low-income housing altogether. Because, see, I think Richard Allen, and I think about Richard Allen to home ownership. So I'm never going to be happy with concentrating poor people in one place. But those people who engage in I know what's best for used people policy making, they propose things for poor people like tiny houses. What is a tiny house? I watch it on cable. They hitch it to the back of trucks. Where's the dignity in a tiny house? Put me on a path to home ownership. And don't salute yourself when we do something like provide rental assistance, because housing is a human right, and I believe in it. But the only people I want renting are the people who say, I don't want to shovel snow and pick up leaves. It shouldn't be because I don't have a down payment, closing costs, and assistance. It shouldn't be because I can't afford the taxes when you look at some of the rents that people are paying in the city of Philadelphia. So what are you going to get from a Parker administration? A safer, cleaner, and greener city that provides access to economic opportunity for all. We're going to put Philadelphians on a path to self-sufficiency, get them off of the poverty hamster wheel, and you will have a mayor who won't change the message depending on the demographic of the audience. What I shared with you, it doesn't change. The Northeast, the river, South Philadelphia, Northwest Philadelphia, North Philly, West Philly, and Southwest Philadelphia, and/or East Falls. My message has been the same, and that is why Philadelphians are responding. We're not afraid of political correctness. I'm just going to be my authentic self, and I ain't. And I'm an English teacher, so I meant to say ain't for emphasis. I ain't putting on for anybody. We're going to put our city on the right track. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Parker. Brother Young, Brother Jeffrey Young, Esquire. He's running for 5th District. He's coming forth. Let's give a hand to Brother Young as he comes forth. He has time on the monitors. Let's see.
So good afternoon, everyone. As Pastor McKinney said, my name is Jeffrey Young. I'm a father. I'm an attorney. I'm a committee person in the 32nd Ward here in Philadelphia in the 18th Division. And I'm running for City Council for the 5th Council District. I decided to run for City Council because I think our city needs a leader who is not afraid to speak up for the people. When I decided to run, it wasn't a popular choice amongst many circles, but it wasn't my choice to run. It was the people's choice to run. It was God's choice that allowed me to run. And so while I'm standing here today, I am the only candidate to make the ballot for the 5th Council District. I put the work in because I know what it takes to lead our city. I can't follow up with future Mayor Sherelle Parker said, but essentially my lived experiences will allow me to be the best candidate, be the best council person for you in the 5th District. Can't leave with all my accolades. Yes, I'm an attorney. Yes, I went to Girard College. I have a bachelor's degree from Temple University. But let's talk about who I am as a person. Let's talk about how my family was just hit with a tragic death due to gun violence, right? Let's talk about how I grew up with my friends. We used to gamble with food stamps, right? Let's talk about how our schools aren't on track to graduate 30 to 40% of our students. That's a problem. Let's talk about how we aren't getting service by our nearly almost $1 billion police budget. Let's talk about how we are not getting service by our $4.5 billion school district budget. That is a problem. That is a real problem, and we need real solutions and folks who are solution-oriented to run our city council. So I decided to run for council because I feel like that we need someone who is not afraid to challenge the status quo. And that's exactly what I did, challenge the status quo. And as your representative for the 5th District, I'll ensure that gun violence gets reduced. Let's talk about programs like focused deterrence, also known as group violence intervention. In neighborhoods where that has been in place, gun violence has dropped by 25% each week. Why aren't we talking about programs like that? Let's talk about resource-based sentencing, right? Everyone doesn't deserve to go to jail, but a lot of folks need resources, a lot of folks need help. So when we have those folks who have committed these type of quality of life crimes, let's give them an opportunity for real redemption. Not just throw them in jail and lock away and throw away the key. That doesn't work. Jail does not rehabilitate folks, not in its current form anyway. Let's talk about targeting investments in our youth. Let's talk to the youth. They don't know what they want or what they like because they haven't been exposed to it. Let's put those targeted investments in our schools because the schools are where our youth spend most of their days, most of their time. The school should be the hub for everything, educationally, socially, mentally. We have to get back to those days where the neighborhood schools pretty much are, controlling what the resources that are provided to our communities. Let's talk about economic opportunities, not just a job. Everyone doesn't want a job, but everyone wants to make money. Everyone wants to have an opportunity to provide for their families. Let's really provide training, resources available for folks who don't necessarily want a job, but want to learn how to make money the legal way. We have a lot of smart, entrepreneurial-minded children, people in our city. Let's give them the skills they need to make sure that they are able to succeed and survive. Let's talk about our affordable housing issue we have in this city. We have to have sustainable and equitable development in this city. We have a city that's building up, but there's no inclusion in that. We have to make sure that our neighborhoods are included in those development processes. We have to make sure that our RCOs are readily equipped to handle the development process, to make sure that it's on an even footing. And let's talk about health disparities that we face in our communities. In the 19121 and 19132 zip codes, the maternal death rate is twice the national average, almost 3 times the national average. Why is that? Why is it that black women in these communities are dying more frequently than other folks in other places? We have to really put forth real solutions to address that. We must make sure that there's adequate health care in these neighborhoods. Not just throwing money at a problem. That's not going to work. We need access to adequate health care. Those are real solutions to problems. Money doesn't always solve problems. We have to actually pull forth programs and opportunities for people in order to allow them, to access, in order for them to create, solutions for themselves. One thing I say as I've been running for city council is my job is to educate the community so the community can make informed decisions. There has been a lack of education amongst our communities throughout our city. And as your council person, it is my job to inform you, to educate you on the issues, on the programs, and on the policies that we have in place to help make your life better. And as your council person, again, I'm going to be open to communication. I'm going to be open to discussion and open to ensure that everyone feels included in what's going on in our city. And I thank you all for your time. And as your council person, as someone who is a strong leader in the city, who's not afraid to stand up to the status quo, we'll make sure that things get right in the city. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Brother Young. Thank you. At this time, McEl Murray. I got it right. I looked at it, I practiced it. Amanda McEl Murray is going to come forward. Then thereafter, Judge Joe will then come forth. And then we will bring conclusion if there aren't any other. All right? We'll come right after to introduce. At this time, Amanda McEl Murray.
Can everybody hear me? Yeah. Thank you so much for having me today. My name is Amanda McElmurray. I'm running for City Council at Large. I am a lifelong Philadelphian, a proud product of our public schools. My mom was a cafeteria worker in our neighborhood school in Frankfurt, and my dad was a truck driver for the Teamsters with Coca-Cola, who's actually, right now, they're on strike. So if you haven't had a chance to go join them and fight alongside them yet, I would encourage you to. They really need support. But when my mom was a cafeteria worker and Corbett cut $1 billion from our schools, it put our city into crisis. It put our students and our educators and our parents and families and school staff into crisis. And they were proposing laying tons of people off, including my mom. And her union, Unite Here and PFT, they didn't take no for an answer. They didn't take there's not enough money as an acceptable answer. They didn't take this is good enough, it has to be good enough as an acceptable answer. So they led a hunger strike, and they not only won my mom's job back, but the jobs of 1,200 other essential workers across the school district, which are essential for the safety of our students, the functioning of our schools, and it's not a good paying job. They make just over minimum wage, but that money was essential for my family and getting by. And that's one of the reasons why I started organizing, because I've seen what happens when regular people come together and don't take good enough, there's not enough money, sit down and shut up as an answer. So I spent the past decade working around criminal justice reform, affordable housing, and education. I co-founded a community group called Reclaim Philadelphia, and I ran 2 campaigns, Elizabeth Fiedler, who's now a state representative in South Philly, and Nikhil Saval, who is now a state senator for lots of the eastern parts of Philly. I've had the pleasure of working very closely with Reverend Holston very closely over the years, who spoke earlier. It was really great to see him. I haven't seen him since before the pandemic. But that's the experience that I'm gonna bring into this work as a council member. So as a council member, first and foremost, I'm going to work alongside each and every one of you and our neighbors all across the city to address the crisis of gun and community violence. Right now, we're told this lie that the way to keep us safe is by locking up people, throwing away the key, and forgetting about them. But that's not true. If that was true, then Philly would be the safest place in the world given our incarceration rates. And just by show of hands, does anyone here feel like Philly's the safest place in the world? Because I don't. No. You feel like Philly's the safest place in the world? Okay, I would love to talk to you after. But the way to keep people safe is by making sure people have good paying jobs so they can afford to take care of their families, by making sure that our parks and our recs and our libraries are open after school and have programming so kids don't get pulled into nonsense and they have other things to spend their time on and they have people to look out for them and mentor them and support them through this world. Making sure that our schools have the funding they need so that we can support young people in growing up. So, that's what I'm gonna do as a council member, make sure that we're addressing the root causes of those. The other big thing for me is affordable housing. So I first grew up in Fishtown, and during early gentrification there, my family was evicted from our home because our landlord saw the changes that were happening in the neighborhood. My parents were asking them to make repairs to the home because it wasn't safe for me and my 4 younger siblings. And he knew that if he just raised the rent, he wouldn't have to make repairs to the house because it wasn't safe, and somebody else who moved from somewhere else could just come in and pay more than double what we were paying and be happy to live in a place that wasn't safe. So we got evicted, and that was really destabilizing for us. We bounced around a lot between Frankfurt and Port Richmond and Kensington and Mayfair, and eventually my parents were able to buy a home because my dad got a job as a truck driver with the Teamsters, and he started finally making a living wage. And that was life-changing for us. It stabilized our lives. It allowed us to get to know our neighbors. My dad and siblings, my brother actually just walked in the room. Hello, Bobby. They still live in that house in Frankfurt. And that, the thing that I learned from that, we need to make sure that we push for affordable housing, is that affordable housing and gentrification are deeply connected to community safety. Because in the neighborhoods that I lived in where we knew our neighbors and people were able to look out for each other, we felt really safe, even though there was more crime. In the places that we weren't able to stay very long and get to know our neighbors, we didn't have people to look out for us and watch our backs, you know? We didn't have a neighbor to bring in a package or to watch us out on the street so that we could ride our bikes and my mom could take a nap because she had 5 kids, you know? So gentrification and displacement is one of the ways that we are making our communities less safe. So, you know, right now, more than half of renters in Philadelphia are paying, right now, 30% of renters in Philadelphia are paying more than half of their income on rent. That's not right. And Philly used to be a city of homeowners. Now it's becoming a city of renters. We need to reverse that trend, make it so that, one, landlords can't price gouge, you know, there needs to be a standard over how much the rent can be increased month to month. It doesn't mean that nobody can make profits. It doesn't mean that the rent never goes up, but it does mean that it can't be doubled or tripled because the neighborhood is changing. And that will stabilize our neighborhoods to make sure that people can move here, because it's great that people move here, but the people that can't and shouldn't and doesn't have to be at the expense of the people that are already here. So part of my plan is make sure that we're stabilizing rents, also creating more pathways to homeownership. One of the programs that I worked on with Senator Saval that I'm really proud of is called the Whole Homes Repair Fund. We just passed it. The state Senate's held by Republicans. You know, we're told that's where good ideas and good people go to die. But we passed a visionary bill that is going to give people up to $50,000 to make repairs to their homes, whether your roof is leaking or your pipes burst or your heater's not working anymore. That is $50,000 that can go to making sure that you can repair things in your home so that when you actually are able to buy a house, that you're able to pass it down and maintain it and take care of it for generations to build wealth. So these are the things that, you know, for me are both deeply personal and that as a council member I'm going to really fight for, and I've been fighting for as a community organizer. I want to bring that into council. I've been building a citywide campaign. I've been endorsed by many folks, Senator Vincent Hughes, Senator Nikhil Saval, Representative Tara Khan and Chris Rabb, and Elizabeth Fiedler, and so many others. The Longshoremen's Union, DC 47, which represents many of the city workers, and lots of others. So, you know, we're working really hard to win this. We have 2 weeks and 3 days left until the election. I hope to earn your support, but regardless of whether or not you vote for me, I'm going to be there to fight for you the day after the election, regardless of whether or not I win this. You know, I've been doing the work for the past decade, and I'm going to keep doing it after Election Day, because this, for me, isn't about a seat. This is about our neighborhoods. This is about our communities. This is about our people. And, you know, I'm planning on winning, working really hard to win. But for me, you know, the work continues. So thank you all so much for having me here, and look forward to hopefully getting a chance to talk to some folks. So thank you.
All right, everybody hear me okay? Okay, great. My name is Kenneth Joel. I'm currently a judge in the Court of Common Pleas. I was appointed last year by Governor Wolf, and I'm running for a full term. So right now I am a judge. That means every day since last October when I took the oath, I'm doing the job. I'm in a criminal room right now. Every day I handle between 15 and 30 cases at all stages of litigation, whether it's the initial scheduling or sentencing or post-trial motions. Every day I have the opportunity and the honor of presiding over a whole variety of cases and issues and matters. And what that means is that I'm doing the work. I'm already doing the job. And it is just humbling to me to be able to do that. And I want to continue to do that. And what I do every day, so I come into the courtroom every day, I've read everything that's in the file. I research whatever needs to be researched. I ask questions of everybody, all participants who are in front of me. My crier will tell you that I allow folks to probably talk too much. I go back and forth, because I think the only way I can fairly and equitably apply the law, which at the end of the day, that's my job, is to hear and see and understand everybody. And I only get that if I ask questions. if I demand comprehensive presentations, if I listen actively and really hear people. So that's what I do every single day. Before coming on the bench, I was Deputy General Counsel to Governor Wolf for about 5 years. I was honored to serve his administration. I handled a number of agencies as one of the lawyers, as one of the Deputy General Counsels, but two in particular are really important. The Department of State. We heard Lisa Dealey earlier about voting and stuff. I was involved and defended the 2020 election challenges, the dozens of those that happened. I defended the continued use of no-excuse mail-in ballots. I defended the opportunity to have secure drop boxes. I defended the right for counties to give notice and opportunity to cure minor defects to your ballots. I stopped efforts to have signature matching on mail-in and absentee ballots. I litigated and stopped when out-of-county poll workers wanted to come into Philadelphia and watch us vote. I've been doing that work for a long, long time. We heard Representative earlier talking about the maps. I was involved in the redistricting in 2018 that led to fairer maps, in 2020 that led to fairer maps, and the end of prison gerrymandering on the state level for the state maps. I also defended the governor's policies and efforts to keep us safe during COVID. His declarations of emergency, the orders that he put forth to keep us safe that he did and Secretary Levine did, the waivers that we put into effect, for example, for the Department of State to broaden the amount of people who could give vaccines in the state, to broaden the ability for healthcare workers to come and have reciprocity with Pennsylvania, to come in and help us with healthcare issues if we needed it, to allow physicians and nurses and the like to get their continuing education online during the pandemic so they could continue to practice and continue to help us. With Labor and Industry, which was another one of my agencies, oversaw and was the final sign-off on various waivers that made it easier for folks to get the pandemic-related benefits, the unemployment benefits, made that more streamlined and a more streamlined process so people weren't getting hung up on that. I defended the governor's efforts to allow home health care workers to join together and get representation to better their working conditions. Before joining the governor in 2018, I was chief deputy to Josh Shapiro in the AG's office. I entered public service back in 2008. One of the biggest cases I ever had with the AG's office was defending the funeral director law. We have a funeral director law in here in Pennsylvania that provides a lot of protections for people who are dealing with that industry, who are dealing with folks, who are dealing with them at times of crisis in their lives when they've just lost a loved one. A group of funeral directors wanted to gut that and end all those protections. For 3 years, I defended that statute, built a record. The statute was upheld. They tried to get review by Supreme Court, denied. So those protections are still in place. Before joining public service in 2008, I was in private practice for about 17 years. I made sure employers didn't discriminate against workers. And I also built an environmental practice that focused on individuals and communities and keeping them safe from environmentally destructive development. My entire career for over 30 years has been protecting and defending people's rights. I do that every day on the bench, and I would be honored to get your vote and support on May 16th. So, thank you all.
All right. We're moving right along. We're going to do this. And then we're going to ask Minister Muhammad to come afterwards. We're going to ask for our 4 final candidates. All are running for the judiciary. We're going to ask Sister Chelsea Lightsey to come forth. Then Sister Natasha Taylor Smith. Then thereafter we'll have Judge Brian McLaughlin. And then we will have Barbara Thompson will come forth afterwards. Then after they have completed it, I'll come forth and thank you again for being here and have Minister Muhammad. We have individuals who are streaming and raised a question about
ballot questions, and I'll allow Minister Muhammad to give a response to that, and then we'll conclude for the day. At this time, Sister Lightsey. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chesley Lightsey. That's Chesley, like Wesley with a ch, and Lightsey, turn on the light so you can see. I used to teach 6th grade, and that's how I would teach my students to say my name. I was a teacher for 7 years before I went to law school right here at Temple. I was 30 years old when I started at Temple, and back then I thought I was very old, and now I realize I was not at all. When I left Temple Law School, I went to work for the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office, and I stayed there through most of my career. I've been there for most of the past 17 years. I was hired by Len Abraham. I stayed through Seth Williams, Kelly Hodge, and Larry Krasner. And I worked for 4 very different DAs, but I didn't go to that office to work for any one of them. And I did not stay there because I was there to work for any one of them. I was there to work for you and all the people in Philadelphia and in this community. As I said before, I was a teacher before law school. So when I went to the DA's office, I went specifically because I wanted to work with children and women who were victims of crime. And I did that for most of my career. I really specialized in cases where children were going to have to testify. Because of my background as a teacher, it was conducive to making them feel comfortable with me so they could feel comfortable in front of a judge and in front of a jury. I eventually was made the head or the chief of the homicide unit at the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office, and that was expanded under my time there to include every non-fatal shooting in the city. I also ran the juvenile unit at the office. I say all this to say that I have a wealth of experience. I have made very tough decisions about cases throughout my career. I specifically, as the head of the homicide unit, I reviewed every warrant for going in a house, for going in a car, for making an arrest, for every homicide in this city. I watched every murder on video that happened in this city. And I made decisions in doing that about whether we had the evidence to arrest someone, to go into their home, among other things. And those are very difficult decisions. And that's important because judges make very difficult decisions about what evidence is allowed under the rules and cases and what isn't allowed. And only when the judge understands those rules can trials be fair and can justice be served. In addition to that, I am a mother of 2. I am a wife of 20 years, and I am a Little League baseball coach. I've coached for 8 years in Mount Airy. I coach boys and girls baseball. Both my kids play. And I am also on the vestry of my church, St. Paul's Episcopal Church, so I appreciate that you all are having this forum here today. I am number 19 on the ballot. I hope you will look for me. You got to dig a little bit, but our ballot's easier to read than the city council ballot, if you've seen it. There are 10 positions on the Court of Common Pleas. So you don't just get to vote for one person for the Court of Common Pleas, and there are a lot of excellent candidates. And one more thing I'll say is the Court of Common Pleas is the trial level court. That is where you hear jury trials, civil, criminal, family, and orphans court. I'm going to leave it at that. I know you've been here a long time. I will walk around and hand out some literature if that's okay. And I really want to just thank you all for having us. Thank you so much.
So thank you so much for being here today. I bring you greetings from my pastor, Pastor Marshall Mitchell of Salem Baptist Church of Abington, where I've belonged for the last 18 plus years. My name is Natasha Taylor Smith. I'm a candidate for the Court of Common Pleas. I'm from Philadelphia, born and raised. I grew up in North Philadelphia. I was educated in the Philadelphia public school system, so when they say that children in the Philadelphia public school system can achieve, I'm here to show you that they can, as long as they have support from people like you, they can achieve as well. I decided to go to a historically black college in Virginia, and then I came home to go to law school right down the street. And it was the summer between my 2nd and 3rd year of law school that I said, someday I'm going to want to be a judge. You see, I had an opportunity to represent a woman in a custody matter. She was somebody who had not always made the right decisions in her life, but she worked very hard to put her life back together so she could be a more integral part of her daughter's life. And I was just a law student, so I have to tell you, I kind of hyped up the court system for her. I told her she was finally going to get her day in court. She would be able to talk about the abuse that she had suffered at the hands of the father of her child and all of the changes that she had made in her life. And while this woman was talking about the most intimate and personal details of her life, the most traumatic things that a woman could discuss, the judge in the case decided that he would take his glasses off his face, close his eyes, and fall asleep on her. And I said to myself on that day, if I ever had an opportunity to make a difference in the lives of other human beings, I would take it seriously. Philadelphia deserves judges who have real life experience, because it's very difficult to have empathy for somebody if you've never faced any adversity yourself. I told you I grew up in North Philadelphia. I grew up in North Philadelphia in the 1980s during the height of the crack epidemic. I watched family members, friends, and neighbors all succumb to their addictions. So I understand the importance of keeping communities safe while still having compassion for the individuals who live in that community. I think it's important that judges have a wide breadth of legal experience. I started my legal career off at the Philadelphia Public Defender's Office, representing men, women, and children who simply could not afford their own attorneys. I've tried about 100 jury trials, but over the last almost 30 years, I've handled thousands of cases. When I left the Public Defender's Office, I went into private practice. I did family law, personal injury, landlord-tenant, and I represented small businesses because I believe those were the areas of the law that intimately affected the lives of other human beings. And then I went on to the Federal Defender's Office, where I can tell you I represented men, women, and children facing the most serious offenses, getting the most serious sentences. I routinely represented men who had been sentenced to life for nonviolent offenses. I'm talking about offenses that did not include a weapon and did not include any harm to a particular individual. And finally, I think it's important that judges have a good disposition. It's hard enough to walk into a courtroom to talk about these very intimate and personal details. Imagine doing that and you're faced with a judge who is more concerned about what he or she is going to have for lunch than giving you your day in court. So if you support me for the Court of Common Pleas, what you're going to get is somebody who is going to treat everybody with dignity and respect, irrespective of your race, your gender, or your zip code. Because oftentimes we understand that individuals in different zip codes in this city don't always get the same services. So my ballot number is number 8. I've been saying to people, please tell me you can't wait to vote for number 8 for the Court of Common Pleas. I am highly recommended by the Philadelphia Bar Association, only the second African-American woman ever to receive that rating, and I'm endorsed by the Democratic Party. Thank you all so much for allowing me to come here to speak to you today. Thank you so much for opening up your pulpit.
And thank you, Reverend, for having myself and all the candidates here today. My name is Brian McLaughlin, and I am currently a judge in family court. I was appointed by Governor Wolf in July of 2022, so I've been sitting on the bench for coming up on a year now. And where I sit in family court, I handle dependency matters, and that's one of the most sensitive and challenging issues in our society. And so what I deal with on a daily basis is the welfare of our abused and neglected children. And my job is to help keep families together. So what I deal with on a daily basis are the issues that affect all of us as citizens of Philadelphia, and that's drug use, homelessness, poverty, mental health, and crime, and how that affects children and how that affects families. So my job is to work through those issues with parents and reunify them with their children and keep families intact. Before I became a judge, I have over 25 years of courtroom experience in the courtrooms of Philadelphia. I was first as an assistant district attorney in Philadelphia. I did that for 5.5 years. I finished up in the major trials unit of the DA's office, so I'm very familiar with crime victims and what crime victims go through. After I left the DA's office, I did 2 years doing civil work, so I know what happens in City Hall and how civil lawsuits work as well. After I left civil practice for the past 19 years before I became a judge, I focused on juvenile and adult criminal defense, so I know what it's like when individuals get arrested and how that affects them and their families. And I also have done dependency work, which is what I do now. So where I sit, I been an attorney for 19 years, and I know what it's like because I've represented the parents who come before me, and I've represented the children that come before me as well, too. So all that experience makes me an effective judge and an empathetic judge in terms of what I do every day. In terms of my background, I was a committee person myself. I've been involved with Democratic City Committee as a volunteer attorney where I've done pro bono work and volunteer my attorney time for well over 10 years. I was also in charge of City Committee as the chair where I continue to do my work, and I oversaw a group of attorneys who give back to the communities such as this and all communities throughout the city of Philadelphia with people who need help. I'm born and raised in Philadelphia. I'm happily married. I got married late in life, but I do have 2 wonderful children. I have a 3-year-old boy, soon to be 3-year-old boy, and I have a 7-month-old boy as well, too. And every child that comes before me, I try to treat them as if they were my own, and I could put myself in their shoes and the shoes of the parents, too. I grew up in a row home. I don't think I'm better than anybody else. I'm truly blessed where I am now, too, and it's come with a lot of hard work, and I love what I do, and I want to continue to what I do for another 10 years with your support. So I appreciate all your help and listening to myself and all the rest of the candidates today. I'm endorsed by City Committee. I'm recommended by the bar. I'm recommended by the black clergy as well, too, and I'm a man of faith as well, too. I go to church every Sunday, and I take my job very seriously. And thank you again. Brian McLaughlin, and I'm number 11 on the ballot.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. I'm Barbara Thompson. I'm running for municipal court, and I'm running for municipal court because I believe it's the most important court in this city. It's the lowest level court. It's where everybody comes in for preliminary hearings. If they've been arrested, they have small claims there. It's low level crimes. Also, it's landlord-tenant court. When people come in there, it's their first time often with the judge. And I believe it's the most important because 100,000 cases come through there a year. And each case has to be treated with respect, dignity, and compassion. It's the difference between people being in a life of poverty and middle class. It's the difference between addiction and treatment. It's the difference between having a home and a roof over your head. And also for the LGBTQ community, it's the difference between isolation and community. So I'm running for that. I have 35 years as a public servant. I've been a lawyer. I've worked opening up the Hub of Hope, which is a homeless day shelter here in Philadelphia. Also with the Philadelphia City ID card, and now I'm working with the asylum seekers who come in from El Paso, Texas. I'm working with the Welcome Center there as they're treated with dignity, respect, and compassion, if not love, as they arrive. And that's how I would treat people as I sit on the bench at municipal court if you so elect me. I also, as others here are people of faith, I'm on the vestry at my church, St. Martin in the Fields, up in Chestnut Hill, and I'm what they call the rector's warden there. And my kids love saying that I'm a warden, but I'm really quite nicer than that. But anyway, that means I'm like the chair of the board there, and we make sure that we have FaceTime with face-to-face with the St. James School, as well as other organizations throughout the city. It's a nice, comfortable church, and we make sure that we give out at least $100,000 a year to various organizations throughout the city because that's who we are. So at St. Martin's, I'm blessed to be there. I work with a wonderful community. I've truly been blessed in my life, and I hope that you'll bless me and vote for me come May 16th. Thank you very much. I'm also endorsed by City Committee and others. Oh, 24. Thank you.
Luz Colin is present. She's running for city council at large. She's going to come and share her platform. Then thereafter, while she's making her preparation, I want to say thank you so very much. I do know that the weather prohibited individuals from being present. You weathered through it. Thank you so very much. To those who are in our virtual platforms, thank you for spending well over almost 3 hours or more with us on today. Again, thank you so very much to our Bridge of Hope board, our church leadership, membership, staff. Thank you so very much to Respect for Life Consulting, Minister Muhammad, and your leadership in navigating us through this moment. We're going to close after Sister Colin. She's going to share her platform. Minister Muhammad is going to give address to those ballot questions, and then we'll bid each other a good afternoon. At this time, Sister Colin is going to come now.
First and foremost, I want to give God the glory because we are in his house, and I'm a woman of faith, and I think that is important because every day is such a blessing for me, especially being here amongst you all, and especially and also for this opportunity. Yes. So thank you so much. My name is Luz Colon. I am running for City Council at large. I am number 57 on the ballot. And I gotta say, it was a little bittersweet coming into this neighborhood because this is a neighborhood where I grew up in, okay? I went to Ferguson School. Anybody know the Miss Clarks around the neighborhood? That was my lunch lady. She saw me grow up in the 20th Ward. And I take a lot of pride from where I come from and where I was raised, okay? I'm a single mother of two, and I also was raised from a single mother, okay? I grew up in PHA housing, but that didn't stop us. All of my trials and tribulations and where I grew up in this neighborhood as a young Latina in this neighborhood didn't stop me. I grew a love for passion for serving my community, starting with the age of 17 years old, walking in the city hall doors as an intern at the time when Arundel was mayor. My time then transferred over to city council. I had the opportunity to work for the first Latino council person at large, Angel Ortiz. Well over, to kind of fast forward here, had the privilege of working for Councilwoman Blondell Reynolds Brown, which I admire to this very day. Very strong woman, and I've had the pleasure of being with her for some time. After that, Councilman Bill Greenlee, I worked with him for several years after I was tapped by the governor to serve on the state level to run his Latino Affairs Commission for the state. Ladies and gentlemen, I gotta say that throughout 25 years of city government, not only playing as an activist in my community, working with our community and knocking on doors with the 24th and 10th Division, I had the privilege of being on a state level and appointed by the governor to run this agency. And I gotta say that having to have the opportunity to look from outside in, you saw a lot of inequities and you saw a lot of disparities. And when I see that my city of Philadelphia is deteriorating with so many things that's happening with crime, public safety, all these things, and the lack of resources for education and for the workforce, especially for our black and brown business owners, these are essential things that when I came back down back home to the city of Philadelphia in which I was born and raised, I said, you know what? 25 years experience. I said, I cannot stand on the sidelines. I gotta put myself into this race and run for office because I know that if I had the opportunity to run with the governor and run a statewide agenda, I can do it and run a citywide agenda that's gonna work for this governing body, okay? It's so much bigger than us. This city is dire. I believe that if you all have the ability to do research and pick those and vote for those that are going to do the job, but more importantly, we can't have anyone that is coming into here and not really knowing the essential roles. You have to get somebody that's experienced with community activism and also governing so that we can be able to pull this Philadelphia agenda forward. And that means a lot. That means a lot. It's like I said, within my platform, that is going to be public safety, economical opportunity, which falls under the underlining of workforce development, and lastly, education. It is so important. I have the opportunity to not only work with our federal level folks about the disparities on workforce, I had also the opportunity to work with state officials like the Department of Education, 3 secretaries that serve under the Wolf administration. And I gotta tell you, when looking outside in, we saw that there is a huge gap with the school district of Philadelphia and in state government. It really is. There's funding, there's money, there's tons of resources for our kids. We need to bridge the gaps, and I'm here for it. I have the experience for it. I have cultivated my long partnership and relationships with these folks to be able to move Philadelphia forward. And again, my name is Luz Colon. I am 57 on the ballot. And, you know, again, this is really, it means a lot because this is my community. Again, anybody know R.W. Brown? Anybody? R.W. Brown? I remember going there as a kid. 7th and Susquehanna, and Cecil B. Moore. That's where I grew up, born and raised, okay? And this is my neighborhood. I know that other kids had bicycles. I guess what I had? A little scooter. It ain't stopped me. I ran around these streets, and you know what? It brings me back to that. I still live here. I live on 7th and Susquehanna, and it's somewhere where, guess what? That's where my roots and my stomping grounds, and I'm not going anywhere. So thank you so much for this opportunity. I thank the Lord above for giving me this opportunity, and this is great. I'm really happy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Colon, for being here. You're welcome. I want to apologize. I said that this would be the last candidate. I want to apologize publicly. I shared privately my apologies to Sister Nadaria Griffin. I have a heap of material in the seat, and I omitted you well ago. So please forgive me. I want to give you opportunity. Then thereafter, Minister Muhammad will come with our closing remarks.
First, thank you. I would like to say I do humbly accept your apology, and I know it's a lot of us coming, so it's easy to overlook it. So I thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak to the people today. My name is Nadira Griffin. I'm number 69, button 69. Today, I bring to you my platform. My platform is we can do more and we will do more. I want to advocate that legislation mandate that we educate our children and give our children the same quality education that they give the privileged and the children in the surrounding counties. With that, I'm going to secure funds that would allow us to build new schools or do a total rehab. I would prefer to do a new school. I want to bring back financial literacy, banking, home economics, cursive writing, phonics, and we're a melting pot here in Philadelphia. We should speak a second language. Our city speaks primarily English, Spanish, and some Asian, Mandarin or Chinese. So I want to mandate that we actually speak a language and open up more libraries, open up more recreation centers, open up more POW centers, giving the children something to do, develop programs and build the gap with the communities, build the bridges with the police forces. What I want to do to combat crime and give individuals something constructive to do is to roll out a dispatcher apprentice program for teenagers and ex-offenders. This would allow individuals to restore some of that trust with the police department and our communities. For crime and safety, what I intend to do is the dispatcher apprentice program, as well as put more lights all across Philadelphia. Bring back hire more police, not for policing, but for them to walk the beats, to build the gap, and we need to see them in our communities. When I was young, we saw the police walk the beats, and they had relationships with us. We knew their names, and they knew our names. If we bring that back, that can decrease some of the crime. A lot of the crime is because we don't have trust. A lot of the crime going on is because of the mental health. So with the mental health, what I intend to do is open up more smaller units where individuals can get treatment, whether it be a drug and alcohol addiction or a mental health disability. We need to treat the individuals like down there at K&A. We need treatment. We need to bring back the village. And by bringing back the village, we need to bridge the gap with the community members, the parents, the small business owners, the legislators, and you. So and affordable housing. I feel like if you build in our communities, you need to hire the people in our communities. That will bring that will increase the employment in our communities. Affordable housing where people can be able to live a quality and sustainable life. And what I'm going to do is create a tax abatement program for long-term homeowners, for small business owners, for black and brown communities. We need to be able to have the same equal opportunities to access loans and resources. I'm going to make sure we do that and give them some type of tax abatement, some type of incentives to bring their businesses back into Philadelphia, where I grew up going to the mom and pop stores. Those stores, they sustained us when we could not get to any other stores. Also, for education, I want to make sure that we have STEM programs, not only for high school students. I went to a vocational technical high school. I had to take a test to get in there. Nobody should have to take a test to want to have a higher learning. So I advocate that we have STEM programs from K through 12. Give our children, cultivate the minds of the children to increase them to think about having a desire to go to school, to go to college and get some trade. I also am going to advocate that we have career technical education from 7th through 12th grade. Give the children fuller jobs where they can work during the summer, and not only in the summer, maybe twice a week throughout the week. So once again, my name is Nadira Griffin. I'm button 69 on the ballot, and I bring to you transparency, honesty, inclusion, and collaboration with the communities. Thank you for having me here, and thank you again.
Good afternoon, everyone. Just to get ready to, as we're nearing the end of the program, I thank Almighty God again. As we were up earlier before a lot of you came, I'm Minister Rodney Muhammad, and I just wanted to help cover, because we're getting questions back there as we are watching the program progress today. And believe me, we will be back because it looks like on the national stage, the same players are coming back for an encore with our current president, Joe Biden, and Donald Trump. And so I know that people will want to be back out, as we were out at Bright Hope in big numbers, and we were out in the state in big numbers. But 2 points as we go into these 4 questions very quickly. As it goes to guns and not having guns on people, you have to remember, for a minimum of 300 years, black men weren't even allowed to have guns. We didn't even have them. So they know how to keep guns from people. The other thing is, there's a cry around the country, we don't want any infringement on our Second Amendment right. We want a right to be able to carry guns. But when the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense was fully armed and allowed to carry their weapons on them in the public in California, they hurried up and came up with some gun legislation. It's called the Mulford Act, and made sure that they came up with something that was sensible and reasonable in the state of California and throughout the country. They know how to do this thing. We're lacking the political will to do it. 4 questions coming up. The first one is the rainy day fund. Philadelphia sets aside a certain amount of money for real emergencies. When COVID hit, they were able to go into that kitty of about $40 million to help the city in an emergency situation. Catherine Gilmore Richardson, a current council member, was here earlier with Councilman Isaiah Thomas. They had to leave for some other engagements, but she authored this expansion of this to make sure that there's more sufficient money set aside for emergencies, because many of the cities of America today are operating in crisis. That'll be a ballot question. It's just a yes or a no. There's another act coming up, question 2, on workforce development. They want to make sure that this now works more aggressively to identify people who can work in various companies, whether they're public or private sector, train them properly, and then hire these people. And of course, the same councilwoman authored this, but this has been supported by other members of council. Right now, we don't tap into the private sector as much, and so many of our young people that are going to school, getting bachelor, master degrees, and other kinds of certificates of achievement, they leave this area and go to other places for opportunities because Philadelphia doesn't have those opportunities. And as they're whitening corporations, the only thing black that's turning up in many of these corporations is the black dollar, but not black personnel. So we have to do something about that. So the workforce development, many companies are saying there's not a skilled workforce in Philadelphia. We got a big literacy problem we should pay attention to. 280,000 adults in Philadelphia can't fill out an application for a job. We also have, and don't think that, I don't know if you saw the article in the Daily News, young man had a job as a janitor. I mean, how hard is that? But not being able to read, when he went into the utility closet, he put things in the water that caused them to have to clear the building. You got to know how to read, and we represent some folk who had to live 310 years with a law forbidding us to read, laws forbidding us to vote. So as a black man in America, 2 things I'm going to do. I had to learn how to read, and I'm going to vote. The other question that comes up is a carve-out question to deal with getting rid of folks having to test to be able to get the necessary employment here in the city of Philadelphia. They test you, and then once you become a civil servant, you're pretty much locked up in the system. But they want a merit-based system in there, or clause in there, which would make them escape having to go through this. So you have to look at that and see what serves the city best. And the last one is, it was introduced by President of City Council Darrell Clark, was the public safety director. A public safety director, somebody that makes it so you don't have to run around trying to figure out who's responsible, what we're trying to do about crime, gun violence, etc. But a public safety director is somebody who kind of sits in there and knows all the pieces that are, all the moving pieces, and knows how to convene them so that we can work with poverty as well as crime, and make sure that it's not a lopsided thing. But those will be questions that will be on the ballot, and we have to answer that to know whether or not the Home Rule Charter can be altered. to help us to do that. And so just before Pastor comes up and close out, Rania Major, is it? Or did I pronounce it right? Rania? Come on up. She's running for the municipal court judge, and she's one of the last ones to come in. And so we wanted to give her a couple of minutes to introduce herself and tell us, I think your number is 25.
It is.
Okay. Come on, y'all. Let's give her a hand.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for letting me. As you know, today's a hectic day running across the city. So my name's Rania Major. I'm second on the Democratic ballot running for municipal court. I am also running on the Republican side and the only one. Let me explain that to you. I've been an attorney for 35 years. In fact, I'm the attorney for the last 25 that's been up at 5th in Indiana, who's known as the Pit Bull. When people come to me for help, I don't say to them, "Excuse me, sir, excuse me, ma'am, but what are you? What party are you?" Likewise, a judge is not supposed to do that. Instead, we would say, "What is your case? What is the case against you?" And we would apply the law without regard to that. So judges are the only candidates that can do this. It's called cross-filing. I'm not the first to do it, and I'm not the last to do it, I'm sure. But I wanted to explain that to you. But I am 25 on the Democratic ticket, and I am a registered Democrat. That being said, let me tell you a little more about me. As you just heard, I've been here 35 years. I'm not a native. I do my own food banking. I linked everybody across the city during COVID. A gentleman started a Facebook page so that we could link a bunch of us to do a share food program. And he asked me, "You know people all over the city, can you help me get neighborhood leaders?" So we did, and we're still doing it to this day. Someone else asked me to moderate a page where we give free legal advice. You can see it right on Facebook to anybody who wants it. I moderate that page, and I'm also usually the one answering. Lastly, I also was asked to, for another group, help publish all of the information coming out during COVID. During COVID, even the lawyers didn't know what was going on. Our president judge wouldn't talk to us, but we would get orders. So every day when an order came out, I would publish it for everybody. I have cards, you can read it if you want to. There are 4 of us running for my position. I am the only one that has been in all 4 divisions. The divisions for a municipal court judge are criminal. We do preliminary hearings and and misdemeanor trials. We do traffic court, we do landlord-tenant court, and we do small claims court, which are civil cases, $12,000 or below. I currently sit on the board for the Center for Returning Citizens, and unfortunately, I just came off of the board, not because I wanted to, but because it closed, for the first homeless shelter for female veterans in the city called Haven Women. We lost our VA funding. I was one of the founding members of the Homeless Advocacy Project, the Legal Clinic for the Disabled, and the AIDS Law Project. And those are only things that you can find on my resume if you look up my website. There's stuff that I do every day. I used to know every homeless person's name from river to river downtown until it became so overflooded I can't even keep up anymore. I have fought for people since the day I moved here. At one point, 50% of my practice was pro bono, and I'm in business for myself. I have staff, I have overhead. Today, it's between 20 and 30%. I don't answer to anybody, I answer to God. I know the law. I've done everything from landlord-tenant to homicides to family court to civil rights and federal and beyond. I'm asking for your support. I'm a little bit late coming out due to some personal issues. I was off the trail for about 4 weeks. And I support everybody. I've hired everybody. Disabled, LGBTQIA, men, women, all walks of life. Homeless. I've actually hired homeless. I've hired homeless veterans. So that's who I am. I'm the second on the ballot, and I'd appreciate any help you can give me. I have a number of union endorsements, most of which I'm the only one they're endorsing. District Council 33, District Council 47, the Teamsters, and the Center, the Citizens for Changing Philadelphia. Additionally, I share the Guardian Civic League with one of the other people who's running against me. So thank you so much. Thank you for squeezing me in. I'm sorry I'm late. 25, last name's Major.
Thank you for being here, Miss Major. Miss Major, thank you for being here.
No, thank
Yeah,
you.
You're welcome. Well, I hope today has been a fruitful time for you. It surely has been a fruitful time for us. We want to encourage you, those present and even virtually, that you have until Monday to prepare yourself for the election process. So please, ma'am, sir, if you have not made preparations, please do so. Monday is the deadline. Is there a particular time, Mr. Muhammad, for Monday? Yep. Monday before 4 p.m. We are looking forward to what is going to happen in the life of our city on the 16th, and we're excited about what the future holds for our city, and we're going to make sure that we're holding our persons in whom we are electing to office accountable. Thank you so very much for all who are present physically and virtually, those who have given us virtually your 3 hours, and those who have physically given in physical, the physical sanctuary has given us 3 hours and 30 minutes. Thank you so very much. Yes, we're gonna end. Thank you, those in our virtual sanctuary. We look forward to seeing you on Sunday. Have a great rest of the day. Yes, ma'am.